It's a new day, a new week, and we welcome you aboard a fresh installment of the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akako. From us to you, thank you so much for joining us. Now, coming up right after the news, we'll be joined for the news review by Suleiman Abrahima. He is Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, and he is our guest. And then we get into the big stories. Today, we're going to spend quite a bit of time on the Assin North situation, the by-election tomorrow, and the stakes indeed are high for the two biggest political parties in the country. I'm talking about the MPP and the NDC. Now, we know that already the National Democratic Congress is alleging some foul play at Assin Praso, deemed to be their stronghold. A win by any of these two political parties may have far-reaching consequences for election 2024. But the question is, who wins Assin North? And what should be the political strategy that will result in a win? We're going to be interacting this morning with some political analysts and party executives as we go live to the constituency as well, where our seasoned correspondents have already pitched their camps to give us first-hand accounts of how things are looking on the ground. That's it for that political belt. But let's talk about making a difference. The maiden edition of the Joy News Impact Makers Awards came to a successful end over the weekend. We're going to be revisiting today what happened and what the future holds for this project. We'll also be interacting with some of the participants on the show. The project head, Emefa Atiamwa Eli, joins us for more on this. Well, today being a Monday, we'll bring you our Drive Safe tidbit. And later on the show, you'd have the chance to join us with your views via phone. And of course, as we stream on social media as well. So just lock your seat and let's do this for God and country. Up next, the news. Thank you for staying for the news. In our first story, President Akufo-Addo has denied being behind the prosecution of embattled incumbent Member of Parliament for Assin North, James Gyakye. He says never had he interfered in the work of the judiciary throughout his stay in office as president. Now, addressing some supporters of the New Patriotic Party at Asimbreku in the Central Region ahead of Tuesday's by-election on Sunday, President Akufo-Addo insisted Mr. Kwesi was being prosecuted because he found himself at the wrong side of the law. Ohiming Teria has more in this report.
Supporters of the New Patriotic Party defied a downpour on Sunday to attend the last open campaign of the party ahead of the by-election on Tuesday. President Akufo-Addo told party sympathizers he had no hand in the prosecution of the embattled Gyakye. Flanked by New Patriotic Party's parliamentary candidate for Assin North, Charles Opoku, and some national executives of the party, he quizzed the difference between the prosecution of ex-member of parliament for Boko Central, Adam Sakandi, who was prosecuted and convicted for a similar offense, and that of Mr. Gyakye.
I say MPP for me, you can see Rano. I say Rano, Ghana, and Rano. I am in a Mababa Rano. Ghana and Mia and Rano. I am in a Rano. Maybe we will be our Ghana. I send the two, I am in another Emra and an old. Yan Panis, I say, who are being to help me, that's a whole way and say, you have to be maybe that. 6.5 years anymore. I'm not true, I'm not true.
President Akufo-Addo appealed to the constituents of Assin North not to make a mistake by voting for someone who could end up in jail to delay development in the area.
ọba bẹyẹ ẹdùnmá lẹbi ọba bẹ gyina hɔ na ẹkyina appeal court ọkyerẹkyi supreme court ọkyerẹkyi high court.
But in a swift response, former President John Dramani Mahama insisted President Akufo-Addo erred in comparing the Adamu Sakandi story to that of James Gyakye-Quayson. He told party supporters at Asin North the embattled Mr. Quayson would not be convicted since he did not flout the laws on dual citizenship.
Assin North rally na opese okra assembly a efa Gyakye-Quayson ho na odi ye mfa to ho no o se no omo MPB a efe ne Sakandi omapenyi itimi bedada Assin North e ma omo ndwen se Sakandi die ene Gyakye-Quayson die eye baako Sakandi for prison because for the intro or the passport this year Gyakye-Quayson wafa passport this year it is asama omo ka se Gyakye-Quayson beko prison Gyakye-Quayson beko prison mi jina aka chem se nada oko prison ne oko prison china.
From Assin North for Joy News, Ohime Teria reporting.
On now to our second story. The Assin North Traditional Council in the Akachi South municipality of the Volta region has bemoaned the increasing number of crimes and murder in the enclave. The council has therefore appealed to the government to intensify security to curb crime by increasing the number of police officers and logistics to root out criminals in that municipality. Now, this follows the death of a popular commercial motorbike operator and mobile money vendor, Nelson Mandela Zanu.
A popular commercial motorbike operator and mobile money vendor, Nelson Mandela Zanu, was murdered in a robbery incident Tuesday evening while heading home. The unidentified gunmen ambushed him about 60 meters away from his home in the suburb of Dagbalakope in Akachi and shot him dead. They bolted with Mandela's motorbike, mobile money transaction phones, SIM cards, and 18,000 Ghana cedis. The deceased left behind 2 children and a wife, Georgina Adifu, who explained that she became worried after she heard a gunshot in the area and couldn't reach her husband through the phone. She then pleaded with a deceased friend to help look for his husband since he did not return home and did not answer his phone.
Church honchifma ima po anwala anyigba ibo ta ima shito chareji ta ma po ba yelefma ode ima fu ashin yo ifa valuable na va fifi la ta yini ala anyigba fi ta fma ma no shifu mangba apeli ka no honam ta tuwa dia 810 222 tuadi ba ku atura kala fma kala yi.
The father of the deceased, Stephen Senugbe, described the death of Nelson as a great loss to their families and entreated the authorities to heighten security in the municipality.
All the ministers said that the Akachi Mafia, Hanyang to Poba, Joma Boboa. Alabama Dogo Crado, do you feel like Akachi Dimacra? Of form, the view blown Lobo. Nobody told him a young Feko.
The murder of Nelson brings to 2 the number of commercial motorcycle operators killed in the Akachi South municipality in the last 2 months, alongside other crimes. The incident has caused rising tension among residents, especially commercial motor riders who believe they are the target of these miscreants.
These things has been happening. Not today, the Mandela's one is not the first one. It has been happening. We motor riders in Akachi, we are not safe at all.
Because we need the government to come and help us. Those made them my brother. We need the government to come and do something with us, do the investigation so that we can get them, all of them. Those murderers and then all those people.
The residents, led by the Akachi Youth Parliament, threatened to embark on a demonstration to register their displeasure with happenings in the municipality. Meanwhile, the Assin North Traditional Council has appealed for calm and instructed the youth to indefinitely suspend the planned demonstration. Addressing the press, the paramount chief of Aveno, Togbe Degele Anuma VI, urged the government through the Interior Ministry to increase the number of police officers and logistics in the Akachi South municipality.
We are calling on the government to ensure that the Akachi South Police Command is provided with a means of transport, and also that their staff numbers are raised to commensurate with the growing population of the Akachi South municipality. We also want to assure the police that the Aveno Traditional Council is solidly behind them, so they should endeavor to go to all the drug dens and root out all criminals from our midst to ensure the safety and security of the area.
As a respectful and listening youth leadership as we accepted the call by the Akachi South Police Command and the Traditional Council to call off the demonstrations.
The Aveno Traditional Council and the Aveno Senior PS Chambers have announced a 10,000 Ghana cedis bounty each for information leading to the arrest of the killers of Nelson Mandela Zanu. Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News, Akachi.
Now, some 504 brilliant but needy students of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology have received laptops to support their education. The project, dubbed Support One Needy Student with One Laptop, solicits the support of all stakeholders to provide one laptop to such students. There's more in this report.
The laptops, valued at 4 million cedis, were donated by distinguished personalities, corporate organizations, philanthropists and alumni of the university. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Rita Kusia-Dixon, appealed for more support.
Since the beginning of the Sensor project, again with the help of our partners, if you put all together, what it means is that we have given out 1,901 laptops to our students. Thank you. With a money value of more than 10 million Ghana cedis. I'd like to inform our partners that the beneficiaries of the Sensor scheme are selected after a very rigorous selection process to ensure that only truly needy but brilliant students are able to come and collect these laptops. At all these instances, 2021, 2022, we will list all the contributors. For this year's program, for which reason we are here, I would like to place on record again our deepest appreciation to the following organizations and individuals who have been very kind to us as a university in supporting us. Stanbic Ghana is the first name on the list. Do you want to do it for them? Stanbic. Yes. And I'm happy to add that the CEO is here this morning with us. My brother, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Let's stay on the educational front as the sector minister, Dr. Yawase Educhum, says there is the need for a strategic revision of the school curriculum. Speaking at the 39th WAEC Distinction Awards, he argued that the addition of critical thinking as a subject in the second cycle institutions' curricula will ensure progress in the lives of students and the country as a whole.
Ghana's education system has over the years witnessed its dose of major setbacks, from inadequate textbooks, teaching materials, to incentives for teachers who accept postings to rural areas. However, the country keeps making strides irrespective of these bottlenecks. Speaking at the 39th WAEC Distinction Awards to honor students who excelled in the WASI, Dr. Osae-Kwapong Educhum has indicated that the current education curriculum has to be revised to meet international standards. He indicated that government efforts are focused towards the addition of critical thinking courses to the module to enable the youth develop the much-needed problem-solving skills.
The prosperity of our nation depends on a quality education system that calls on our youth to become critical thinkers. But how do they become critical thinkers if there is a nation regime do not require critical thinking for you to get an A1? A nation's fortune depends upon education. Depends upon education with a foundation in critical thinking. Depends upon education in an environment where students can also suggest ideas and profess solutions to challenges without memorizing facts from the teacher. Our examination system should not be the one that you can pass through memorization. I call upon universities to look at the changing dynamics of tertiary education and begin to take a serious look at the transcript-based university admission process, where in addition to the WASM, the transcript of the students also become important as another consideration for admission. Whether it's about STEM education, which calls for a new assessment, whether it's about courses that you currently offer, we all have to come together and ensure that we have a curriculum that whose implementation inures to the benefit of our nation. When we look at our social studies curriculum, we know we have work to do. And this is a very good time to begin to do that work and liaise with WIAC to make sure the contents of our social studies curriculum is something that supports our youth to know something about their nation. I can assure you tomorrow, the curriculum will be different. We'll be able to study about the history of Ghana, the history of Africa, something about the geography of Africa. How can we take advantage of AFTA when we don't know the countries in Africa? What is the purpose of education if it does not, in a developing country like ours, change your socioeconomic fortunes? Education is our war against poverty.
Head of the National Office, Wendy Lamte, on her part, highlighted the new rules the assessment body has set up to check examination malpractice.
I wish to use this opportunity to bring the attention of our stakeholders and candidates to the rules and regulations for dealing with cases of irregularity in council's examinations. Indeed, these rules have been revised. This is a result of the new trends in examination malpractice over the past few years. They include the following. 1. Registration of unqualified candidates. Candidates who don't belong to the school system. 2. Distraction of exhibits by candidates. Some candidates think they will get away when they chew the foreign material. We now have a rule for that.
Let's talk health. Now, the Sunyani Regional Hospital, Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, and Efia-Nkwanta Regional Hospital have received anti-malarial drugs and other essential medicines to enhance quality healthcare delivery at those facilities. Now, the support comes as part of the Bliss GVS Farmers Ghana Act for Africa campaign. There is more in this report.
Bliss GVS Farmers Ghana Act for Africa campaign is aimed at making Africa a malaria-free continent. The donations to the beneficiary companies is to support government and stakeholders' efforts in the fight against the disease. Administrator of the Sunyani Regional Hospital, a beneficiary of the campaign, Mr. Samuel Doji, expressed gratitude to Bliss Pharma for the support.
On behalf of management, entire staff and our cherished patients, I want to say a big thank you to Bliss GVS Pharmaceutical Company for this nice gesture. They have made us known that this is an initiative to create awareness on malaria and to reduce malaria burden in Ghana and in Africa as a whole.
Dr. Kweku Safo, Director of Pharmacy at Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, received the donations on behalf of the hospital.
On behalf of the CEO, Central Management, we want to extend our appreciation to you This is not the first time that you are donating to the hospital. You've been doing so last year. I remember you were here to donate. We know the effect of malaria, more especially on our children under 5, and most of your donations that we are receiving today too, we have some aspects that will cover those under 5. We appreciate them so much, and we are hopeful that you will continue to collaborate with us to manage all our malaria cases.
Dr. Kwame Amponsah-Boateng, the medical director of Efiankwanta Regional Hospital, said anti-malaria drugs would go a long way in treating malaria cases.
On behalf of the staff, management and patients of this hospital, we want to express our deepest gratitude to Bliss GVS for this donation of drugs for the treatment of malaria cases. I must say that this is the 3rd time they are doing this kind of donation through the project that they have titled Act for Africa. I believe that this donation is going to go a long way in helping us treat malaria cases, prevent mortalities, and improve on the quality of life of our patients.
A health talk was held at the Efiankwanta Regional Hospital in the Western region.
That place is very oily, so sometimes when you are washing, you will see that there are some nets there. So I want to ask, is there any shampoo that is good for?
Now, the Ministry of Health says it is committed to including mental health treatment in the National Health Insurance Scheme's benefit package. Deputy Minister of Health Assin North made this known at the Mental Health Authority's Stakeholders Performance annual meeting in Accra.
Data from the World Health Organization states that 650,000 people are suffering from severe mental health disorder, and a further 2,166,000 are suffering from a moderate to mild mental disorder. Deputy Minister for Health, Mahama Asai revealed that the Ministry of Health has requested data and decisions from the Mental Health Authority and stakeholders to determine the possibility and impact of adding mental health treatment to the National Health Insurance Scheme benefit package. He indicates that this aligns with the Akufo-Addo-led government's efforts at meeting the universal health coverage that targets and covers all Ghanaians.
I have the belief that the government is committed and we are going to do more funding. We are beginning to look at mental health in relationship with National Health Insurance. And you see, that's why we brought the National Health Insurance Financial Controller. At the end of the day, they will discuss and see how National Health Insurance will be collaborated to take care of mental health patients as well. National Health Insurance is going to take care of mental health patients and other activities, so that at least the funding expanding, and with government support and donor support, stakeholder support, philanthropic support, churches and everything, if they all come together, this issue of financial constraints will be eased for now.
Chief Executive Officer of Mental Health Authority, Professor Penaman Apo, in an interview with Joy News, stated that one of her visions in becoming the new CEO of the authority is to strengthen collaboration between stakeholders and the authority to improve mental health in the country.
Now, 10,000 children of school-going age in 10 cocoa-growing communities have received educational support from Olam Food Ingredients Ghana Limited in the last decade. This is according to the country head of Olam Food, Asari Botre, during a ceremony to present 550,000 cedis to 10 traditional authorities. The company says this initiative forms part of its efforts to give back to society. There is more in this report.
The licensed buying company, LBC, Olam Food Ingredients Ghana Limited, has donated an amount of 550,000 Ghana cedis to 10 traditional authorities to support the education of children in 10 cocoa-growing communities. In the last 10 years, 10,000 school children have benefited from the company's initiative to support the education of needy but brilliant students. Speaking during a farewell ceremony for the company's Global Chief Sustainability Officer, Gerard Manley, who retires after 40 years of active service in Ghana, head of Olam Food Ingredients Ghana Limited, Eric Asaribotwe, said the educational support formed part of their cocoa sector sustainability agenda.
These children come back. So what we have seen that the impact, they come back to their parents and they are able to really make sure that all the farm education, whether it is in agronomic practices, whether it is in good environmental practices, whether it is into good social practices, are understood much better. Because when we go and tell them, they take it, but they see us as a distant force. But when their children are around them, telling them, Daddy and Mommy, this is the good thing to do, and this is the right way, acceptance of it is holistic and very impactful. So that is the strategy we have used, and we have seen over the period of 10 years. The last time that we checked the numbers, would have impacted more than 10,000 students, 2,000 kids of our farmers.
Meanwhile, Chief Executive Officer of Cocoa Board, Joseph Edu, has commended Olam's outgoing Global Chief Sustainability Officer, Gerard Manley, for his immense contributions to the growth and sustainability of Ghana's cocoa industry.
The man we are celebrating here today, I call him as a Ghanaian. He's part of us for very various reasons. Apart from the business, Gerard Manley has a special passion towards farmers in Africa. So, about 1.5 decades ago, when it became clear that the market was not being fair to producers, he was one of the strongest pillars who advocated for sustainability programs. A sustainability program here just means that they have to go and support the farmer to improve upon the farmer's income and livelihood. So when you see all these traceability programs and sustainability programs, to the extent that you have various programs reaching farmers to offer support, to offer technical advice, training, then one of the key players there has been Gerard Manley.
Describing his time in Ghana as wonderful 40 years, Gerard Manley said while Ghana's cocoa stands out globally in terms of quality, Olam Food Ingredients Limited is concerned about farmers' living income in the country.
This has been a wonderful 40 years. It's been a wonderful time working with you all. One thing about Ghana and cocoa is your techniques. The way you look after cocoa is textbook. You can write a textbook just by following the process of cocoa in Ghana. The way that it's looked after all the way at the farms, all the way through to the buying of the cocoa, the grading of the cocoa, the logistics, the moving it down to the port, the fumigation of the cocoa, the onboarding of that cocoa. And when you think about it, there is no country in the world, right, where Cocoa Board and the CMC can so well work together to make sure that whatever cocoa goes into a warehouse, the buyers overseas are happy to accept the quality of that cocoa. There's no other country that can do that. We know that farmers do not get the right price for the labours that they put into their farms. So yes, we have spent a lot of time. We have a lot of agronomists. We have a lot of experience. And what we want to do is really make sure that experience that we've taken from around the world can be channeled so that farmers can look at really how they can increase the yields and productivity on the crops.
As environmental degradation and climate change continue to threaten sustainability of the cocoa industry, policymakers have been urged by stakeholders to step up their fight to help protect the sector from total collapse. For Joy News, my name is Carlos Caloni.
Well, it's a wrap for the news. Let's stay for the news review. Up next. Here we go now with a review of the newspapers and major stories from Ghana and beyond. And we're joined by Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brima. Mr. Brima, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Ben, and thank you for having me.
I'll be coming back to you shortly. Let me just acknowledge Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They make it possible for us to bring you this segment every morning. And they're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. You can locate them in Accra, Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Krodumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, the Stakrade Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama Enzema. If you'd like to call them, which I suggest you do, you can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start for us of the news review. Now, Mr. Brima, I know you are in Sierra Leone currently on the back of the election they're about to have. Tell me, what is the situation there? What is the ambience in Sierra Leone? And what are people saying about the election that is coming up? I ask in the context of development vis-a-vis the sort of leaders we keep electing in Africa and how Africans generally are becoming exasperated, I should say, with misleadership. What have you gathered so far?
Well, Ben, so yes, you are right. I am here as part of the ECOWAS election observer mission. In fact, the elections have already been held. It was on Saturday, the 24th of June. A number of us were deployed into various areas across the country. I was in a place not too far from Freetown, the capital, but still in the provinces, to see the beautiful countryside of this great nation. The elections generally went on peacefully. Very, very peacefully, relative to the expectations that people have. But of course, as they would say, in terms of elections, it's usually not the voting day that is the problem, but the issues around coalition, voter tallying, and all of that, which is still something that is ongoing. Yesterday, we heard about a little bit of tension in town around the offices of the main opposition political party. But otherwise, so far, things have been quite calm. Elections here are quite tense. It's almost like in Ghana where you have two political parties. Here they also have two main political parties, even though there are others. There were 13 in all. There were 13 presidential candidates, but everyone knows that it's between the All People's Congress, APC, and the Sierra Leonean People's Party, the SLPP. The SLPP is the incumbent party, that's the party in government now, and the APC is the main opposition party, which was in power for some 5 years ago. So far, we haven't heard anything that is so serious, but the process is still ongoing. The Joint Election Observation Mission, ECOWAS, AU, UN, EU, will be meeting this afternoon at 4 o'clock to put out the preliminary statement in terms of the observations and how things have gone. So, yeah, so far so good.
Interesting to hear, and also interesting to hear that it went more peacefully than hitherto imagined, that those are the sort of headlines we would want to see. But let's stay on the political front as we get into the newspapers. The Daily Graphic this morning saying, battle for supremacy, Akufo-Addo Mahama storm Assin North. And campaigning by political parties and candidates for the Asin North parliamentary seat reached a crescendo yesterday with the involvement of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and former President John Dramani Mahama. The two indeed added weight to their respective parties' appeal for votes before the curtains on the campaigning were lowered yesterday. Now, in what looked like a dress rehearsal for an anticipated keen campaigning towards the 2024 general election, the Assin North by-election occasioned by the eviction of the National Democratic Congress's James Gyakye following a court application over his allegiance to Canada has become a contest too close to call. The hectic and intense campaigning is understandably a desperate attempt by the two parties to hold on to any available seat in Parliament as they battle for control over the almost evenly balanced legislature. Long convoys went in and out of the constituency to nearby Asin Fosu, where many of the politicians have pitched camp. It goes on and on, but in terms of vote buying, despite allegations of widespread vote buying, some residents said they would vote according to their conscience. Quoting some of them, they say, "We know whom to vote for. Let them do what they want to do, but we know what is good for us," one resident voter said. Another said, "We have heard that some things are being shared, but those sharing the things are giving them to the people they know. We also will do what we have to do." Ejayao, a voter resident at Asin Praso, said. I could go on and on. It talks about the different incidents. And curiously, I heard Mr. President there stating that, look, Gyakye is not being prosecuted. I have no hand in this. You know, the NDC has alleged that that is the case. And he says it is merely the law taking its course, and that what happened to Adamu Sakande is what is happening to James Gyakye. But of course, we know that there are some disparities, but we'll leave that to the courts to deal with. Your thoughts on tomorrow's election and the way the two parties, NDC and MPP, have conducted themselves?
Well, so far I haven't heard anything about, violence or intimidations and so on. And it is natural to expect that the two leaders would be in the constituency to support their respective political parties. What is certainly of concern is the level of money that is being used in the constituency and the whole tendencies of vote buying. I think that is what is eventually going to destroy our democracy. And if there is one critical thing that we all have to be concerned about, it is the level of money in our politics, because that is what then leads us to the bad governance that we have and the corruption that we have. Because if this is one constituency and a lot of money is going into it, at the national level, it will be the same. And people then get into power and they have to recoup back whatever money they put out there. And that is really the cause of the corruption that is destroying our country. Unfortunately, the parties do it with impunity, they do it with disdain, and they do it without shame. Sometimes I wonder that the president is fully aware of what is going on in there in terms of the expenditure and the monies and the items that are being shared. He's okay with it. The former President Mahama knows about how much is being distributed to people, the items that are being shared, and he is okay with it. What kind of democracy are we building? It's no longer about, the convictions, about issues, about policies, about the quality of candidates. It's about who pays more. Yesterday, I was reading a poll that has been conducted by, I think the group is called Info Analytics or so. Right. And there was one particular question about if you were to be given some inducement to vote for a particular candidate, what would you do? And overwhelmingly, the response was that I would take it and vote for whoever I'm being asked to vote for. That's about, I think it was around 78% of the people saying so. Those who were saying, well, I'll take the money and then vote according to my own conscience, was around just about 16% or so.
So in other words, you're saying that those who would be manipulated by these benefits are in the larger community, basically.
Exactly. And so that is the trouble that we have. So it's not about the quality of candidates. It's not about the quality of the messages that are being put out there. It's not about the campaign message. It's not about ideas. It's about who is paying more. And you see, you can't blame the voters, because at the end of the day, they vote for people, they go and they don't see any development. And then shamefully, when there is a by-elections like this under all regimes, then they go in there and then start to, implement some development projects in a very shameful way. But they would turn around and defend, oh, it's not because of the by-elections, as if they are dealing with animals and not human beings with brains. Sometimes that is what I wonder. You are dealing with human beings, matured adults, who know and have conscience. And then they would confidently say, oh, we are doing this road or we are doing this electrification project, not because of the by-elections. We would have done it anyway, and so on and so forth. So, well, for me, that is what we found ourselves in. The most important thing is not to have violence, and free, fair, and peaceful election is conducted. Assin North is not a stronghold of either of the two parties. And so it certainly will be keenly contested, and we'll look forward to the outcome.
Right. Let's get into some other stories on there. There's also Baumia Cat sought for construction of Ability Village. 3 Dabwasi students drown after swimming. And then there is Graphic MD receives Outstanding CEO Award. Let's get into some of those stories now. Let's start from page 16. So 3 out of 7 first-year students of the Dabwasi Senior High Technical School last Saturday drowned while swimming in the flooded river Subri. The 7 students, all male boarders, allegedly snuck out of the school's premises for the ill-fated swimming expedition. Now, as of press time yesterday, 2 of the bodies had been retrieved from the river and deposited at the Efiankwanta Teaching Hospital morgue, while the 3rd remains missing. Torrential downpours in the western region and nearby areas have caused various river bodies in the region to swell, flowing at high current and rendering many in the communities homeless. A very sad development there. On the next page, page 17, NPP presidential primary, 10 file nominations. And we know them. We have Alan Chermating, we have Kennedy Ejapong, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Boachi Ejapong, Dr. Osae-Kwapong. There's Jogate Ejapong, Dr. Kofi Konadu Apreku, Francis Adainimo, and Kwojo Nsafwa Poku. Let me just add this other story to it before we get into other stories or other papers. So there is Baumia Cat sought for construction of Ability Village, and the Vice President has said the government is working on a policy to give faith-based organizations that meet a particular threshold in terms of provision of social services some incentives to empower them. He acknowledged the enormous roles FBOs continue to play in the area of education, health and care for persons with disabilities, among others, to improve the standard of people in society. And tied to that, Catholic bishop bemoans Pentecostalism's influence on the church. Any quick reactions to these stories, Suleimana?
Well, it's always great to hear about projects that are coming up to help improve the lives of people. And so, yes, if a sword is being cut for some development initiative, that is certainly great. The issue about the drowned students is really unfortunate and a very sad development. When things like this happen, you immediately can think about the parents of these students. Unfortunately, it wasn't a case of they it's not a case of they trying to get to school or anything. This was just they themselves trying to experiment or go on expedition, and this unfortunate incident has happened. Condolences to the family, and I believe that this will be a lesson for other people, so that we don't have a repeat of this unfortunate incident. The issue about faith-based organizations. Yes, we are a country that is quite religious, Islam, Christianity, and all of that. Well, I always say that unfortunately it appears that as these religions grow in our country, and you would have been expecting people to then conduct themselves in really morally upright ways, it appears that we are witnessing the opposite. The more people claim to be going to churches and mosques, the more acts that are, I would say, unreligious are happening. And I don't know whether indeed our churches and mosques are doing what they have to do in terms of the inculcation of the ideal moral attitudes and values that our people must have. One of the biggest challenges we have is the issue of the moral decadence. You don't know who to trust. People will not tell the truth. Everyone is trying to cut corners. Everyone is trying to make money as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, that is what is going on. In fact, I know that within the MPP NDC, various religious groups are trying to push candidates. In terms of churches, we have individual churches that are backing particular people for possible running mate slots. Maybe eventually these are stories that we would tell, but that is how far we are going. People would want their church members to be vice president, to be president. It is not bad, but the way it is being done, for me, is what is of concern. But we cannot also say that, therefore, people shouldn't be religious. We would only urge our religious leaders, both Christian and Muslim, to really try to ensure that the right attitudes and values are being inculcated in their members, members of their congregations.
Right. Let's wrap on the international front and move quickly to other papers. And interesting things have been happening in Russia on the back of the Wagner Group and its what Putin calls treasonable actions. Now, on page 9 of the Daily Graphic, China expresses support after Russia aborted mutiny. And Russia said on Sunday that China had conveyed a message of support to Russia's leadership in its efforts to stabilize the domestic situation after Saturday's aborted mutiny by the Wagner Group of heavily armed mercenaries. Now, there's a shock to everyone on the back of this latest development, and they took some 2 cities to be specific. I pictured here Yevgeny Prigozhin. He is the head of the Wagner Group, and I want to know what your reaction is to that, because President Putin has said that Russia will implode if there is no unity from their front. But then there's also this story, curious one. 101 people and a dog vie for Toronto mayor. And according to the story, Toronto will soon decide who will be its next mayor after revelations of an extramarital affair pushed the city's longtime leader out of office. Now, there is no shortage of candidates to choose from. In fact, a historic total of 102 names will be on the ballot, including Molly, the dog. Now, the 6-year-old wolf husky canine and her owner, Toby Heaps, are running on the promise to, quote, stop the salt assault on city roads during the winter. Suleimana, a dog is contesting for mayor in Canada. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that's really about some symbolism rather than being taken on the face of it as a dog contesting for the mayoral role in Toronto. I think it's just some acts of symbolism that is taking place. Of course, in these parts of the world, people contest for these positions for purposes of the honor and for purposes of the the honor of being of service to their people. And that is why they get into the position and, something happens and they easily resign because they are not in there to make money. Contrary to our case where people get into this position and it's about making money and stealing from the people. And so for me, even if there are 1,000 people, it's about the management of it. At the end of the day, whoever gets it, we see it as an honor to serve and rather than an honor to steal from the people, as we do experience in our part of the world. Russia, the development in Russia, I think it's quite surprising that this thing would have happened in Russia. Certainly, it is something that would have some implications on Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and it's certainly something that has deeply embarrassed President Putin, undermined his standing and authority as he would want people to see him. And it then reminds me of Adani Best's song on Jatabi,
Jatabi Ole.
Exactly. So when you get a tiger or a lion and you feel it's a kitten, it's a young one, and you nurse it to a point, if you're not careful, that same animal will devour you. Because the leader of the Wagner group happened to have been Putin's chef before.
He is literally Putin's right-hand man.
Exactly. But then, as I said, if you go for Jatabi, when it grows, it may likely devour you. And that is exactly what we are witnessing in Russia. It's unfortunate for Putin, but as I said, it will have some implications on the situation in Ukraine, which we all pray for a resolution, so that all these claims about the implications and impact of the Russia-Ukraine war on our economies would be alleviated, so that hopefully our economies will get better.
All right, let's get into other papers now. And the Daily Guide newspaper says, slain Majwa buried. It has to do with Inspector Ahmed Chubesi, who is facing court processes, and he has pleaded not guilty on the back of the demise of the lady Majwa. NPP vibrates as Jogate files for flag bearer. This is refreshing. It's almost always been Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia this, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia that. Of course, it's a private newspaper. But today, we see a headline talking about another flag bearer contesting for the NPP's flag bearership slot. Chachu's allegation against AG irrelevant. That's according to the court. And then Bawumia cuts short for PWD's Empowerment Center. And Accra roam to promote arts, culture, and education. Let's get into the stories now. We'll start from page 3. And the national headquarters of the ruling NPP and its surroundings came to a complete standstill on Saturday, June the 24th, 2023, as Jogate turned up to file his nomination forms to contest the Elephant Party's upcoming presidential primary. Gati arrived at the Asylum Down headquarters of the NPP in the company of well-wishers, including his wife and seasoned lawyer, Efua Gati, who has also been a member of the party since 1992 and was part of the team led by President Akufo-Addo, which also included Joe Gati, Philip Addison, and Alex Quader. Let's look at the legal dynamic to the Chachu concern. Now, an Accra High Court has dismissed what it described as irrelevant claims made by private legal practitioner Chachu Chikata against Attorney General Godfrey Adame, purporting to be prejudicial to the trial of deposed Member of Parliament for Assin North, James Jachi Quayson. Now, Mr. Chikata, while moving a motion last Tuesday asking the court to vary its decision to conduct the trial on a day-to-day basis, relied on a supplementary affidavit which sought to bring to the attention of the court alleged prejudicial statements as well as alleged insulting comments made by the AG against the accused persons. Now, the court, presided over by Justice Mary Anzu, in a ruling dismissed Mr. Chikata's alleged prejudicial statements made by the Attorney General as not relevant to the issue and could not constitute grounds for it to vary its order to hear the case on a daily basis. So, according to the court, it's not relevant to the issue, but whether or not they were in poor taste, that's a different matter altogether. Let me just add maybe something from... So, on the international front, Uganda plans to raise the drinking age to 21. And, of course, where you are, Sierra Leone election, country awaits results in tense poll. Any quick reactions?
Well, the NPP contest for presidential in the flag bearership is getting quite interesting. And again, I speak to friends within the party, and you are told who pays how much and who is really paying well and who is not paying well to delegates. But we would still keep a close eye. I would wish that the media would do more than we are doing in terms of basically telling us what the candidates are doing and who has filed and all of that, to doing more analysis about these individuals. Who are they? What have they done? What positions have they held? How did they perform? What was their track record or is their track record, and so on, to elevate the conversation a bit. Yes, it's an internal party contest, but at the end of the day, they are seeking to become leaders of the country. They are not just basically seeking to lead their political party, but the intention ultimately is to become the leader of the country. And therefore, persons who contesting, we need to know more about them. We hear about Kennedy Japan. Yes, okay. What is he involved in apart from being in Parliament that we know? We are basically told, oh, he's a rich man. What are his businesses? What does he do? I'm not saying that is a claim that is false, but we need to know more about them. They are great minister. Uso Free Yakutu is running. What has he done? He was given some, one of the crucial areas of our economy and our country. How did he manage that? Planting for food and jobs. How much went into that? And what has been the outcome? What has been the result?
Right.
So I think it's important that the media would do that kind of analysis rather than basically telling us where a candidate is and what they are doing and so on and so forth. Of course, as I said, Sierra Leone, citizens are keenly awaiting the formal declaration of results and hoping that everything will go peacefully as it has been so far. Yeah, those are the comments that I would make.
All right, let's get ready to wrap with some of these stories, but I just want to dwell briefly on the Daily Guide still. 6 Chinese grabbed for galamsey and 7 illegal miners, including 6 Chinese nationals and 1 Ghanaian, have been arrested for engaging in illegal mining, also known as galamsey. The illegal miners were reportedly apprehended during a swoop by the Operation Halt 2 team in the Bekwai Forest Reserve enclave in the Ashanti region last Friday. I keep asking myself, how do these Chinese get into the country? How are those excavators conveyed? How come no one sees anything until they are in our forest reserves actually polluting? See something, say something. I guess no one sees anything. There's also on page 13, producer price inflation hits 30.3%. And the government statistician at the Ghana Statistical Service, Professor Samuel Kobana Enim, has indicated that the year-on-year producer price index for May 2023 is 30%. This rate indicates that between May 2022 and May 2023, the PPI increased by 30.3%, representing a 4 percentage point decrease in producer inflation relative to the rate recorded in April 2023, which was 34.3%. And the Finder newspaper says, YEA graduates 500 prisons office assistants, and there is Opoku will serve better. Nanado rallies support for candidate. Let me just add this so you can just respond to all of them together. CD posts positive outlook. This is Economy Times. And job creation a priority of government. Any reflections on any of these stories? And then we can say goodbye.
Galamsey remains a major challenge for our country. One of the things that was glaring for me moving across different areas in Sierra Leone is how clear the rivers that you cross look. And as a Ghanaian, the contrast was so clear that, oh, okay, this is a fantastic river. This is what water bodies are supposed to look like, as opposed to what we see in Ghana, those muddy gray scenes that we see when you cross our rivers. And you ask a fantastic question, how do these Chinese get into the country, and how do they get into the forest reserves with the excavators to do what they do? How far are these forest reserves from the various communities? How do they get these machines into the forest reserves without, the communities seeing, without the assembly members, the chief executive, and so on? Why don't they, get to know about these until the devastation is caused? But I believe the answer is that in our country today, everything is about money. If it is about money, it's okay. You can do whatever you want, so long as I would benefit, or he would benefit, or someone else will benefit. That's okay. As Otumfo said once, how come the chiefs are unaware of these developments in their areas.
Right.
So for me, as I said earlier, in terms of the role of religion and all of that, we've gotten to a point where everything is about money. And
Right.
people take money and do just anything. That for me is really very unfortunate. On the economy, inflation and all, I think we should admit that it's a global phenomenon. One of the biggest challenge here for the people of Sierra Leone is the economy and how dire it has been over the last 2 or so years.
Right.
Of course, there are countries that have managed themselves well, and Ghana should have been part of those countries, given the endowments that we have. Unfortunately, we couldn't manage ourselves in ways that would get us out of the situation. So it's really unfortunate, but I hope that the future becomes better.
We all hope that, and we wish you the best, Suleimana, as you continue to stay in Sierra Leone. Hope to see you back soon.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
All right. Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, joined us there for the conversation. But today's a big day. I met him just a short while ago looking all dapper. Our very own Fentuo, Tahiru Fentuo, is celebrating his birthday today. Wonderful gentleman, fine guy at his work when it comes to sports. Fentuo, we celebrate you today. May God keep blessing you in every way. And we also have Ivy Jedu Afeni of MT, and here's wishing you a happy birthday, good health, and God's blessings on you. Age gracefully, love from Daniel, Mamiepia, Aso, and Irabna, and Paulina of MTN. All of them wishing you the very best. As we wrap, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us to bring you this segment. They're offering free prostate screening, free female fertility screening as well. Here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra, at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard. There's also Kumasi Chronomabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. Takrady Anaji State Tema Community 22. There's Techiman Hanso and Siama and Zema. If you'd like to call them, which you should, the numbers are 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of sports up next Tuesday. Welcome to the big stories on the AM show. Now, right before we get into Drive Safe and then take you to Assin North, let's start off the conversation, though, from the viewpoint of the Ghana National Association of Tanker Drivers. Now, they are commencing an indefinite strike starting today. The drivers are complaining of terrible roads they have to ply, which puts them in harm's way. And there have been several complaints to authorities that have proven futile. They are also resorting to the indefinite strike to drum home their concerns. They say until the roads are fixed, they are not backing down. Now, in line with that, LPG dealers have expressed worry about this move by the tanker drivers and warn of an imminent shortage of gas if the situation is not averted. Now, joining the conversation via Zoom is the Vice Chairman of the Ghana National Tanker Drivers Association, Sunday Alabi. Mr. Alabi, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Thank you for joining the conversation. So, I have already mentioned what your concerns are, but re-echo them for us. Why exactly are you embarking on this strike? Nationwide, right?
Yes, please. It's nationwide. Yes, we are embarking on this strike because of the road networks connecting to the depots across the country. They are very, very, very bad. Very, very bad. And it's a threat to the environment and the people around those places.
How dangerous exactly is it? How bad is it? Have there been any instances where on the back of the poor roads, accidents, for example, have happened. Walk us through why it has come to this point.
Okay. Because our drivers are well trained, they manage these roads from 2017. But other trucks solid cargoes always roll over on these roads. So we are saying that if it should be a tanker and there's a spillage and there's fire, for example, Tema, the whole Tema will get burnt. Nobody can do anything about it. The whole Tema will get burnt.
But we have the fire service. When you say the whole Tema will get burnt, what do you mean? Are you saying that it will be such a bad situation that it cannot be handled?
The fire?
Yes.
Yes, because all the depots have their pipelines interconnected. So when they affect one depot, it goes through all the depots through Tema.
I'm listening to you, Mr. Alabi.
Yes, so it goes through all the depots through Tema. So that is why we want it to be fixed. 2017, we went to the president at the Plaster House. He asked the road minister to fix the road. 2019, the stakeholders around Tema came together and said, okay, let's raise funds to fix the road. So we went to meet the MCE. He said, unless they give the money to the assembly, but it's not possible. 2021, they let us understand there's no money. We pleaded with them, just grade the road and make it motorable for us to apply these roads. Every quarter, there's a cargo truck falling on the road. And the fifth wheel, the connection between the truck and the ball, is just a metallic or something, very small. So the way the gullies are there, it is possible that it will fall off. And when it fall off, and we are not careful, disaster will happen in Ghana. Because as we speak, I don't know of any fire tender that is around that can take care of such fires when it happens. That is why we want to prevent it, because in safety, the first thing is elimination. So we want to eliminate it from happening. That is why we are saying that, okay, we will not apply those routes any longer unless it is fixed.
So looking at how bad the situation is and how you've even approached the presidency to report the matter, you mentioned that the sector minister, are you talking of the roads and highways minister, was he supposed to be the one to deal with the problem?
Yes, he's the one to deal with the problem.
Kwesi Amoakwata. Right. And with no results having been yielded, looking at how dangerous the situation is the strike going to resolve the matter? Because you know that as you embark on this strike, LPG supply across the country is going to be seriously impacted. Can you hear me?
You need to fix the commercial vehicle so that it can work and repair the private vehicle. But as we speak, our private roads have been fixed, but the commercial ones, no. These enclaves, the taxes they take from these companies, from this enclave is about more than 50% of Ghana revenue is generated from this place. So why would they leave the road in this state?
So what is the next line of action? Let me find out from you. How many tankers are members of your association? How many tanker drivers are members of your association? How many are you?
Across the country, the members are about 7,000 and counting, but the trucks are about 3,500.
So are all of these tanker drivers members of your association, or there are a number of them who are not?
No, all of them are in our association.
You mean every tanker and truck driver is a member of your association?
Yes, please.
Just confirm for me, all the tankers, all the trucks, all the drivers are members of your association?
The drivers are part of our union. Right. All of them are part of our union, the drivers.
So in other words, with this strike, it means it's going to take nationwide effect, and practically work is going to come to a standstill as far as those who are conveying produce, gas, among other things, from north down south, south up north. All of that is going to come to a halt with this strike.
Yes, all of them across the country. All of them are halting. They are not working today.
So you call this an indefinite strike. Do you have any timelines? I know you've said indefinite, but do you have any timelines? And what are you looking forward to in terms of bringing this to an end?
Taking steps to salvage the situation before it gets there.
So you're saying you want to salvage the situation before it gets there? I missed, the connection went bad there. If you could just repeat for me.
Yes, we want to salvage the situation by getting a tanker to roll over to bring fire. No, we want to salvage it to stop the oppression so that they fix the road and we continue to work.
But you do know that fixing these roads in different parts of the country will take time, right? In the interim, what is going to happen?
We know it will take time. They should commit themselves in doing it. When we see certain things like that, yes, we can manage and start going to work. But if nothing is being done, we don't think we'll go to work. It's better the people stay at home, not go to work. The country stay at home, not go to work, than kill the people in the country.
And so this is the final resolution.
Yes, Minister, final resolution.
So what then happens, like I've asked before, I just want to pinpoint it. What then happens to supplies? Because, look, everything from onions, tomatoes, gas, and all of that. It would mean, for example, gas would experience shortages. The prices likely would go up in the interim and all of that. Are those consequences you feel would be apt on the back of your actions?
I didn't hear you. Can you come again?
I am saying, Mr. Alabi, that with this strike, items such as onions, tomatoes, cement, gas will be in short supply, which could lead to a price hike. Are you willing to bear those consequences, or are you aware that those consequences will be felt by the generality of the people?
Yes, we know it will affect them. But it is better this way than go to.
Well, the connection doesn't seem to be that good as far as Sunday Alabi is concerned.
And then there will be a disaster in the country.
All right. Sunday Alabi is head of that association, and he's been interacting with us. They are actually embarking on that indefinite strike, and they are saying, the tanker drivers are saying they are going to lay down their tools, so to speak. They are not going to deliver the services they deliver. And he says, if not all of these, most of them are members of this association. That is the truck and tanker drivers. The impact, well, only time will tell. Well, thank you for staying with us for that brief bit there. We're going to take our drive safe tip for the day, especially as it's a Monday. And then when we return, we'll head straight into Asin North, gauge the mood there, speak to our correspondents, speak to analysts, speak to the politicians, and decipher what we can look forward to tomorrow. Drive safe, up next. This is Drive Safe with me, Benjamin Akakmo. Thank you for making the time. We start from knowing more about what to do on our roads and maybe even knowing what to say when drivers are losing their way. We're going to be falling on the Ghana Highway Code, among other tools, as we learn more about driving safe. Right before I tell you about my guest, though, for today, how about we find out how much you know? So you think you know. Well, watch this. Now, at the latter end of this segment, we're going to find out what exactly that road sign means. But without further ado, let me say hello to Mr. Cecil Gabra, who is actually the CEO of Top Tech Transport and Logistics. Mr. Gabra, thank you for joining us.
Very most welcome.
Right. So today we're going to be talking about a number of things from headlights, that is the types of headlights, the LI, the laws, the regulations, and reflectors, among others. When it comes to carnage on our roads, sometimes it also has to do with lights and how people use them. So let's start with the types of headlights.
Well, so whatever it is, the lights are part of the vehicles. And for every vehicle, you must not tamper with what the manufacturer has placed there.
Okay.
Right. If the manufacturer has placed lights, definitely it has been calculated by law. Your dim light must see up to 50 meters, and then your high beam must see up to 100 meters. So if you have adjusted it yourself, then it means that it will be either shut off, or it will see the floor, or it will go up. So lights are part of the car, and therefore you must not touch it. If you want to touch it, drive to every DVLA office. They have equipment to adjust your lights so that they can see very well.
But why would people want to modify their lights in the first place?
Well, it is just like people who are fixing tinted glasses on their lights and fixing what we call balloon ties, just to beautify their vehicle. But for lights issue, you must be very careful not to throw your lights to hurt anybody who is also driving or anybody who is walking. Now, the law says that don't tamper with your lights, don't add any lights to your vehicle. So you have two lights fitted on your vehicle, okay, that is left and right, and you have it as dim or high. Some have got it as inbuilt and others are separate, so you can see maybe 4 lights. One set, that's one pair, is the dim light, and then you can see another set of 2, which is high light. Then underneath the bonnet, you have what we call the fog light. These are the manufacturer's specifications. You may see other pickups with lights on top of their vehicles. Now, these lights are supposed to be fixed with regulations. That is, you have to take the permission from DVLA and then tell us what you want to use the lights for. If it's for farming, late farming, yes, you can put it on your vehicle, but you cannot use it practically on the highway. Okay, so that is not permitted. And that is what we see in this country. Now, we have various types of lights, okay. We have the halogen, we have the xenon, and we have the LED, which is of late very common. You see a 4x4 driving and it's using an LED. It has been calibrated that it will not blind you when you are driving on the opposite side. However, the highlights are really powerful. Highlights are not supposed to be used to drive. Now, the law states categorically, if you look at the LI 218 regulation 65, right? It is so clear to tell you what types of lights you can fix. Right now, so you don't fix lights where when you throw your lights, it will hurt somebody's eyes. I mean, let me put it that way.
And all of that depends on even the angle of the car, because sometimes people do it, but not intentionally.
Precisely. No, the ones that you see that causes problems is just so clear that people have their own intentions that, look, let me see well than everybody, and which is so wrong. If you are seeing well than everybody, then who else can also drive?
Right.
So it's a common mistake where people make by fixing extra lights and then also readjusting their lights. But if you look at the readjusting system, it is just so clear, like I said, 50 meters for dim lights and then 100 meters for high lights. That is it, nothing else. You cannot put on any additional lights to blind anybody who is using the road. And the law also states that as you are driving, you only drive with dim lights. Okay, so we
even
say
at night.
At night, dip your lights when you are driving,
because there's dawn, dawn driving leading into the early morning, and
precisely.
There's night. So, dear friends, we're trying to save ourselves, to drive safe and stay alive. Today we've been learning about headlights, the different types, how many we need on our cars. But right before we wrap, so you think you know? Well, this is the road signal or the road sign that we showed you earlier. Do you think you know what it was? This actually is the answer. And so there you have it. This is another installment of Drive Safe with me, Benjamin Akakpo. I have been with CEO of Top Tech Transport and Logistics, Mr. Cecil Gabra, who's been gracious enough to have us come here and be with him. Don't forget to drive safe and stay alive. Thank you for watching.
Supporters of the New Patriotic Party defied a downpour on Sunday to attend the last open campaign of the party ahead of the by-election on Tuesday. President Akufo-Addo told party sympathizers he had no hand in the prosecution of the embattled Jachikwesin. Flanked by New Patriotic Party's parliamentary candidate for Assin North, Charles Opoku, and some national executives of the party, he quizzed the difference between the prosecution of ex-member of parliament for Boko Central, Adam Sakandi, who was prosecuted and convicted for a similar offense, and that of Mr. Jachikwesin.
Osae MPP for no me ye pese ehu ano aje ye ni ehu ano Ghana mra e na ehu ano anya me na me ba be ehu ano Ghana emra e na ehu ano anya me na me ehu ano ni we bi a wo Ghana ha asende to anya me na na be emra e na no obi yan pan sa se o abe mu ti Africa so o we ye ni say nya ni bi me nya bi da 6.5 years anymore.
President Akufo-Addo appealed to the constituents of Asin North not to make a mistake by voting for someone who could end up in jail to delay development in the area. But in a swift response, former President John Dramani Mahama insisted President Akufo-Addo erred in comparing the Adamu Sakandi story to that of James Jachikwesin. He told party supporters at Asin North the embattled Mr. Kwesin would not be convicted since he did not flout the laws on dual citizenship.
Asin North and my own dream said, Sakande dear, any Jachikwesin dear, Ayabako. Sakande for prison because for the intro or the passports this year. Jachikwesin, one of our passports this year. It is our summer or Mokase, Jachikwesin Beko prison, Jachikwesin Beko prison. Mijna Akacham said, Nada, all prison and net all prison and China.
From Assin North for Joy News, Ohime Teria reporting.
Well, that is the situation in the central region, Assin North to be specific. Both parties, the NDC and the MPP, have been campaigning hard. And you notice that in the last round of campaigning, the leaders of both parties, so to speak, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, president and leader of the MPP, as we can say for now, and John Dramani Mahama, former president and also flag bearer of the NDC. Both of them doing their best, throwing their shots in these dying embers of the contest. We know the contest is slated for tomorrow, and that is when the cookie will crumble, and we'll see things falling into their proper places. Is it going to be Charles Opoku of the MPP who wins, or is it going to be a reinstatement of James Jachikwason, who at a point was relieved of his duties by the court? Well, joining us for these conversations this morning, we have joining us via Zoom Dr. John Osae-Kwapong. He is a CDD fellow. He joins the conversation. We also have in the studio Dr. Tutu Boahen. He's a political marketing lecturer at the University of Education, whatever. Both of them will join us as we judge on these matters, but we'll intersperse the conversation with thoughts from our correspondents on the ground, and we'll also be speaking to some members of the two political parties to find out what their plans and expectations are ahead of tomorrow. Well, let me start with Dr. Osae-Kwapong, who joins the conversation via Zoom. Doc, when you look at the proceedings so far, as far as this by-election is concerned, generally, what do you make of how far we have come?
Well, good morning. It looks like I was saying yesterday to a friend that both parties have pulled in their big guns for this battle, figuratively speaking. To think that the president has been there to campaign for the MPP candidate, and former President John Mahama has also been there a few times and is there now to campaign for the NDC candidate. My initial observation is it's interesting how the campaign is being framed. If my reading is correct, on the part of the NDC, the by-election is seen as making right a wrong and an injustice that they feel has been done to the party, which is the expulsion of Mr. James Jachikwason from Parliament, right? So in a lot of their framing of their campaign messages, you see, that theme that regularly comes through their messages that, look, this is a case of a miscarriage of justice, and it needs to be corrected, and you need to elect him again to make sure that justice is done and justice is served. When you listen to the MPP rhetoric, directly and indirectly, they seem to also be hinting at the fact that, look, this is a person who hasn't served you well, who wasn't honest to his constituency, and that certain misfortunes would befall him. I found it a little surprising that the president actually would wade in on that same rhetoric as well. But they also seem to be phrasing it as certain unfortunate things will befall him. And you don't want that disruption.
Which is somewhat prejudicial to the case in court, isn't it?
Precisely, very prejudicial to the criminal case in court. And so it's, on the one hand, it's do this, elect him so that justice is served. And then on the other hand, it's be careful, something untoward, something bad might happen to him, which will be disruptive to the development process and fortunes of the people of Asin, and therefore don't.
And on that very point, on that very point, curiously, because Mr. President, and we have the visuals, says that, look, some are saying, in fact, the former member of Parliament, James Jachikwason, has suggested that there are arms in government that I am sort of influencing the judiciary to do what it is doing against him. That is what he says in one breath. And then he says, that is not so. It is merely the same scenario as Adamu Sakande. That is in one breath. But then in another breath, he says what you just alluded to, that don't vote for him because the courts are going to convict him on this matter, so to speak, without saying so many words, and that it will be a waste of your vote. So looking at the two things he says, what do you make of it?
Yeah, and I think that's a little disconcerting, right? That one, to distance yourself from the charges that there is some political influence on the judiciary, because nobody wants that. Nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to live in a democratic dispensation where the judiciary is not perceived to be independent. So it's good to have clarified that, look, I have no hand in this. This is the law trying to take its course. But like you said, in the same breath, when you end up also then saying this is what might happen to him, or this is what would happen to him, I think that, like you said, is very prejudicial. And for me, I wish His Excellency would have just ended at, I have nothing to do with this. It's simply a matter of law.
Thank you for those initial comments. Let me now bring in Dr. Tutu Boahen here in the studio. Doc, welcome on the AM show. What do you make of what the happenings so far as Assin North's by-election is concerned?
My greetings to Dr. and our viewers. Basically, you expect some of these things to be happening, especially when it comes to a direct contest between the NDC and the MPP. And over the weekend, we realized that the two people who matter in the NDC and MPP camp were all at the Assin North, right? Trying to campaign for their candidates. And it's quite unfortunate, from a communication perspective, the kind of communication that these two leaders have put up.
All right, Doc, we have to do something very quickly, so just bear with me. We will come right back to you. Dr. Osae-Kwapong, so just to continue, in terms of getting into some specifics, okay? We've heard the rhetoric from both sides. When you listen to what the MPP has said thus far, I'm sure you've followed, and what the NDC has also been saying in campaigning, and we've seen, for example, that members of parliament from both sides have been on the ground. We have seen, like you said, the president and the former president all campaigning for their sides. What have you picked from the rhetoric they've been, spewing out there? How would you assess that?
So, you can tell that this seat is very important to both parties. The determination to win this seat is so clear. If you look at how much time, energy, everything that is going into trying to capture this seat, none of the parties are leaving any stone unturned. But as I was saying, previously in my earlier comments, when you assess the rhetoric, I would have wished that, and maybe there was no way that this case, both the court's ruling and the impending criminal trial, perhaps there was no way that this couldn't have taken center stage in this by-election. But I find it a little troubling that seems to have taken, center stage, with all manner of comments, being made, which for me, I think is very unfortunate to what is also going to happen, because nobody knows what the courts are going to do. You cannot say with certainty what the outcome is going to be. Even if you have some idea or you even want to speculate, I think it doesn't, it's not healthy to the judicial process, especially with everything that the judiciary has come to be perceived as lately. You don't want to give one more ammunition to the critics and the concerned voices who are beginning to wonder how independent the judiciary is by throwing in these sort of comments. But if you look at the rhetoric, that is what this election has become about, which is the case against Mr. James Kwesi and whether it's a legitimate case or not.
All right. Let me also just acknowledge Mr. Mustafa Gbande of the NDCs, and I'll be welcoming you aboard to deliver your thoughts shortly. Mr. Gbande, just stay with us. Let me come into the studio, back into the studio for your initial reactions quickly on that. And what do you think again about what Mr. President said and what the consequences could be in terms of the court processes? Quick thoughts?
So as I was saying, from a communication perspective, I believe that, the two messages that were put there, it's not good for either of the two candidates in there. And I want to believe that what the president said, is a total switch from a statesmanship, to a partisan position. Statesmanship in the sense that at a point in time, you are distancing yourself and suggesting to your audience that you are being neutral with regards to the court actions and all that. Then at a point in time, you are also giving a verdict indicating that even if the people vote for him, he's going to be sentenced. And to me, that is not too good and too pleasant. What I gather from Assin North is that now the youth particularly are seeing the actions of the court and the communications from the party more or less as a deliberate attempt, to put Judge Kwesi, behind bars. And that the people are now claiming, especially the youth, that they would vote for him no matter the consequences. So they will know that this is what we did and this has been the consequence. And to me, it wouldn't be good, for the country, number one. It wouldn't be good for the MPP's, attempt, to get, the seat for the party. I think that the NPP should have, focused on their mandate, and their objective of winning the seat, rather than bringing in these court issues and all that as the basis for their campaign. That suggests to the people that it is a deliberate attempt, to just give the dog a bad name and then probably hang it. And to them, it doesn't sit well with them. So that is my initial thought, and I think that the right thing should be done. Probably it may be too late, but they have some hours to get things done right.
And you can see in your shot there work that is ongoing, at least the roads there, some of which have been, some work has been done on, all on the back of the by-election. But let me bring into the conversation two stalwarts of the different sides. Mustafa Gbande is a Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. We also have Henry Nanabwache, who is National Organizer of the NPP. Since Mustafa Gbande joined first, I'm just going to start with him. But a very good morning to you, Nanabi. Henry?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. It's really good to have you. It's been a while.
Okay, thank you.
Great. All right. Let me start with Mustafa. So for you, you've been there, you've done that, you've been on the ground. What is your reaction to happenings in Asin North? Your party has said that influence peddling is going on, that money is exchanging hands. The Daily Graphic this morning reports that some of those that paper spoke to said they would take the money given them, but they would vote otherwise. There are those who have also said that, well, money will influence them. What is your reaction to all of this?
Thank you very much, and good morning to my senior intellectuals, and then my colleague Nanabi. My first reaction is that this campaign has been very peaceful, very clean, until we had His Excellency the President come in. And we're still trying to juggle our minds as to whether we listen to the President, who is a lawyer himself, and as to whether he was speaking in connection with issues in the courts, and whether the President clearly understands the extent to which his comments have damaged the judiciary, and further confirmed our suspicion that he is doing everything possible to compromise the independence of the judiciary, as well as stocking the judiciary with somewhat MPP faithfuls. And I think we should be worried as a country beyond the by-election if your president can assume such a preposterous position, a non-statesmanship, such a position that has a tendency to jeopardize our democracy. If you put weight on the quality of judiciary we ought to have as a country and what we have now. Beyond that, what is more disturbing is that the MPP doesn't have a message, and all that they seek to engage in is vote buying. But the question we ask is, how long can we sustain this new paradigm being introduced by Nana Addo as one of his legacies? Can we shade away development? Can we sacrifice growth? Can we sacrifice standard of living and begin to share money for the purposes of political expedience? That is how low Nana Addo has brought governance. That is how low the MPP has brought our country to.
Right.
And that for us in the NDC, we believe that beyond the issues in court, and we also know that Asin is a very honorable person. He is not a criminal. In the eyes of the law as we stand today, nothing forbids him from being a member of parliament. And that the people of, if we get a transparent, credible, free and fair election, the NDC should be able to retain Honorable Asin in good faith. What is more scary is that because our opponents know that they have lost the grounds, what they are seeking to do is to compromise the security of the election. We are only hoping that the IGP will make use of professionalism and take full control of this election.
Right.
Because the NDC is coming from a bleeding position of our past experience as far as by-elections are concerned. And we are guided that the past will not repeat itself.
Okay.
We will not stand and to accept any form of intimidation, any form of what is not legal, any form of acts that are affront to our elections process. We want a transparent election. We want a credible election. We want to see the NDC and the MPP go out of Assin North very friendly, very peaceful, where the NDC goes home with a victory.
All right, just hold for me, Mustafa. I love the end of your submission. You want both parties to leave the election in a peaceful manner, still friendly manner, though it is politics. But let me bring in Henry Nanabuache. Two major concerns I have. The first one has to do with the fact that the rhetoric basically has been that, you know what, the member of parliament there, James Asin, was not serving your purpose in terms of development. We will bring development to Asin North if you vote for our candidate in the person of Charles Opoku. But the interesting bit is it not the DCEs and MCEs who really are the agents of development? How come the MPP has not been able to, so to speak, develop Asin North, and now they need an MP before they can do that? Just a quick thought. What is your take on that?
Oh, yeah. Before I just go on with some reactions on all that my brother Mustafa just said,
This is a man who, in 2020, when he was campaigning, said that he was going to develop the entire Assin North with his own money. He stayed in Canada for 45 years. He has accumulated, some wealth, and that he is going to use his own money. He's not going to depend on MPs' common funds. He's not going to depend on government. That is the more reason why there is that responsibility on him. There is that load on him to execute all that he said. So it is his campaign message he came with in 2020. But then, yes, it is always said that MPs are not agents for development. That is what we find in the law. But clearly, because most of these projects are budgeted for, and these budgets also appear before Parliament, they must go to Parliament, the Parliament must go through it thoroughly, and then they will pass budget. So it is also the belief that once the budget that will guide the implementation in terms of finances, implementation of these projects would go through the House, then you would have some lobbying power to also lobby some projects for your constituents. So generally, yes, MPs are not agents for development, but because people are also of the notion, and sometimes it also comes from us, the MPs and politicians, I'm going to lobby for this, we are going to do this. So when you finish, then there is that burden on you to all. So that would be a response to just the initial question you just asked. But I've heard Mustafa attacking the Electoral Commission already. I've heard Mustafa attacking the police already. I've heard Mustafa attacking.
What he said was that they should live up to expectation. Is there anything wrong with that?
This is the first time. They said that they have, in fact, for...
Well, I'm just saying that on this platform...
His national chairman on one network I just spoke on mentioned that they have some signals that EC will be delaying some electionary material.
Henry, since we cannot corroborate that, can we just restrict ourselves to what is said here?
But why are you doing this? The man just said so many things. Well, are you able to collaborate that? Mustafa is on your platform. He made allegations that people are sharing money. Are you able to substantiate that?
Actually, Henry Nanabuachi,
so, no, I'm coming, hold on.
I'm able to do that.
I'm coming, hold on. So if
we have a video with evidence. So if you're asking, I'm saying is that what you're saying,
evidence?
Henry Nanabuachi, let's have a conversation.
What evidence?
I am saying that what you are suggesting that may have happened on another platform, we are not privy to that.
What I'm trying to say is that do you also all the things that my brother just said? No, I'm coming. If you do so, you are not being fair to me. You have called me for an interview. Hold on. I've said that I've appeared on one network and I've heard. So the fact that you cannot substantiate does not mean that I cannot speak to it. What level of, and then what angle of question is this? He said so many things on your platform. He's not able to provide even a scintilla of evidence. And you're allowing him to go. I'm telling you that I appeared on one platform.
So this morning he said the whole lot that you are talking about. What exactly did he say this morning?
Exactly. So you move on. So you don't say that because I'm unable to provide evidence, I should, but when he is able to just go with
Nanabuachi, go ahead.
Evidence. Yes, his national chairman said that they have evidence that the Electoral Commission is planning to aid the MPP and that ballot materials and electionary materials will not be conveyed to some areas on time for the processes to begin. Right, and that appears to be the language. And then Mustafa also just said that it appears that we are going to lose, and for that matter, we are relying on the EC and then the security agency. So now he's going to caution the IGP to exhibit professionalism. These were his words just on your platform. And I think that penchant from the NDC always trying to bastardize this institution is quite unfair. Look, in Kumawu, they started these same accusations, but the EC lived up to expectation, even beyond expectation. They did so well. And the security agencies, especially the police service, they also exhibited maximum professionalism in Kumawu, and they did so well. Today, as I speak, we are meeting them at 11 a.m. And it is my belief that so far, I mean, we've had quite some decent campaigning atmosphere in Assin North. And I can allude to that. And I believe that because the NDC has not really come out to say anything different from what I'm saying. So I believe that from how they've started, I mean, they've done quite some good policing in Assin North.
Right.
So I believe that they are going to leave. But this attitude of always bastardizing state institutions. And then again, he said that Nana Danko Akufo-Addo has appointed some MPP faithfuls into the judiciary, and that is worrying. And again, I was surprised how you could not come in to tell him that what is the evidence. He said it boldly on your platform. Look, we have had some Supreme Court judges appointed by the former President Mahama. Is it fair to say that because constitutionally the President has a mandate to appoint these Supreme Court justices and the President exercises his mandate with that same power and in that same authority? For that matter, for the MPP, we need to say that the judiciary is biased and tinted with political action. It is so unfair. And it is not coming from... The inspiration is given by his own flag bearer, former President Mahama. And for me, he's supposed to know better. I find such comments very reckless.
Why I wouldn't even go into that is the point that these Supreme Court justices are not barred from having a political opinion. They vote. And so I didn't even deem it a point to get into. But you go ahead.
No.
Because on both sides, then we could play that game.
If you go into their code of conduct, if you go into how they are supposed to be appointed, yes, although it can be appointed by a particular person who was sponsored by a political party, but they are supposed to exhibit extreme professionalism. They are supposed to exhibit and make sure that the decision they come out with is devoid of any partisan color.
Henry, that is beside the point I'm making. I'm saying that they are not
barred. So that is what I'm trying to say, that if you have a political party always saying it, now they even gave them a name, Unanimous FC, to the point that you recall that recently Mr. Pesawite was dragged to the Supreme Court for some of these unsavory comments he's been making, and it's been their style. Look, under former President Mahama, you appointed an Attorney General who prosecuted Mr. Adamu Dramani Sakande, who was an MP in Boko Central. And we did not make some of these statements. Right? So you are out of power now. There is another president, there's another Attorney General, and similar charges slapped on your person. And then you mount a platform, and because of this, you bastardize the court, forgetting that you have been president before, and under your watch, it was an Attorney General appointed by you who prosecuted this person. He went to jail for 2 years. You have forgotten all of these things.
Right. So I think the point there has been clearly made. I just have a question. Do you have access to a television where you are? Or are you watching this live?
Please, I'm actually moving. We are still in Mecca. We have a meeting. I told you we have a meeting even with the police. So I'm in the car now.
Right. I would have showed you on the bit about influence peddling, because that has also come to the fore in the conversation in Asin North. And there is a portion where you would see the Ashanti Regional Chairman of your party, Chairman Wuntumi, forking out money out of his batakari and giving it out to some of those in attendance at one of your rallies. It's been claimed that those are the activities that have been going on to buy the conscience of voters. How do you react to that?
I met,
and it's on video, by the way. It was captured.
I met the National communications officer in a village called Simpa. They gave them 2,000 Ghana cedis. They gave the woman 2,000 Ghana cedis. When you go there, because people had come from some places, you give transportation. They give me money. Mustafa Bande, he's been giving money. He's been giving money.
Do two wrongs make a right? Is that what you're saying?
No, it is not. No, it is not meant to influence anybody. It is not meant to do so. For instance, if you go to a chief, it is customary. If you go to a chief and you have a package for the chief, you are saying that this is supposed to bribe the chief. It is customary. Look, when you have a crew from multimedia, and if you want to visit any chief, if you go and maybe you are having a program and you go there, are you going to go empty-handed? I don't think so. So
but in this instance, where you are talking of politics, where we've been talking about the influence of money and everything like that, I mean, it's at a political party rally, but you cannot say that everybody there is affiliated to the party. So what then does that mean? Where then do we draw the line? If we want to create all of these exigencies and say, in this instance we can give out, in this instance we're doing this.
I've not seen the video, but I don't see anything wrong with it, that you meet a group of persons and then you want to give them a gift. It is not as if that he gave the money to them around the ballot box while people are in the queue.
But that is criminal. No one would even dare do that.
Exactly. So that is why I'm trying to say that.
No, but I'm saying it's an impossibility to.
So if that is criminal, then this is not criminal. So he has not breached any law. And that is why I'm saying that if you go to a group of persons and a group of people, and then they are there, they are young people, they are youth, they are vibrant. I met a group of young guys who were going to train in early morning, yesterday. They were going to train. And then I said, oh no, have this for your breakfast. I did so. But is that supposed to be vote buying? I don't think so. You cannot buy. Look, and in Assin North here, I must credit the traditional leaders here with that level of respect and that level of patriotism for their people. Everywhere we went, they never asked for monetary assistance. All they asked for was either they wanted the support to complete their backgrounds, either they want support for their farming input, either they want. Everything was developmental in nature. The orientation was entirely different. So I'll be surprised if anybody, especially the NDC, would want to insult the intelligence of the people in Assin North by saying that these people are people you can just give them money and just have their being manipulated. I don't think so. That would be an insult. I've been here for 3 weeks, almost a month, and I don't see this. These are people who are very honest. These are people who want something better for their people. And then again, I also heard you say that you have also seen some projects going on, and in your view, you think that it's because of the by-election. Again, I find this.
Please let me just make this clear. We have been on the ground, and there are projects that claims have been made about in terms of there being, if you will allow me, I will tell you, in terms of there being brought back into action. For example, a contractor coming back on a specific road because of the by-election. And if you look at the timelines, you would have to corroborate that. What is wrong with that?
In fact, most of these projects you are talking about, they're almost about 80% complete. They've constructed the drains, they've finished with the gutters. What was left for them to do the filling, the sealing, and then with the asphalt. So you cannot construct a road in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks. You start from somewhere. Even the preparatory works alone takes a lot of time. So all of these projects you are talking about, it's within the space of about 3 years. So, and indeed, I've also heard even the chief of Asin Breku saying that if anybody says that, oh, the NPP are executing this project because of violence, it is not true. The video is there.
Okay.
It's gone viral.
So just to cap off the conversation with you, because I know you are actually in a hurry. So just to cap off the conversation with you before we go on the ground and speak to some of our correspondents. The Daily Graphic today on the allegations of vote buying, they interacted with some people. One of them says, for example, We know whom to vote for. Let them do what they want to do, but we know what is good for us. Another says, we have heard that some things are being shared, but those sharing the things are giving them to the people they know. We also will do what we have to do. I don't know how you react to that, but just to cap off the conversation. Tomorrow, is Charles Opoku going to be able to carry the day? The last time in Asin North, and that is a swing constituency, by the way, you lost with a margin of just about 3,000. Has the MPP done enough to take that seat? And what are your predictions?
Well, yeah, we've done a lot. First of all, we campaigned on the numerous projects we've done in the constituency, and the people are very, very happy about it. If you put together all the interventions, the infrastructure interventions in the constituency, we are talking about close to about 120 projects. From Friday, we've seen the Vice President commissioning the 32-kilometer road right from Asin Praso to Asin Fusu. There's also another road completed, that is the Kushia Road. We have the Breku Road. In fact, but for the heavy rain, we've had torrential rain for the past 4 days. But for the heavy rains, the town road in Breku and then that of Akonfede would have been asphalted. Right? We've had Agenda 111, the hospital coming up is almost about 70% complete. It's got into the roofing stage. We commissioned the AstroTurf there. We have a lot of chip compounds, the Action One chip compound, we commissioned it. So we campaigned largely on the many infrastructure interventions we've executed in the constituency. Then secondly, we also campaigned on the strength of the candidate. The candidate is extremely popular. This is somebody who is philanthropic in nature. He's been able to train thousands of young persons in different workforce. He has a foundation, and that foundation has been working in Asin North for years. And that foundation, as I speak now, is either renewed NHIS card or even facilitated new ones for many people, 8,125. He's done it free of charge from his own pocket. This is somebody who sacrificed his own building, his own house, for the operational and functional activities of the Asin North district when it was first created. This is somebody who has been helping with the payment of school fees. He has this scheme that gives out loans to market women, soft loans, interest-free. And he's been doing this for years. So he's extremely popular. Look, we've been campaigning for just about 10 days. But I can tell you that he is popular more than even Quayson. Because you know what, for Quayson, he doesn't understand why he should be helping people. He stayed in abroad for 45 years. He doesn't have much of a connection in the constituency. His own people, 2012, 2016, 2020, they rejected him. Then he went to Accra to tell Stephen Ketia that he has his documentations now fully ready and everything, and then they brought him back. So for us, for this Charles Opoku, he is from Asin Breku. His mother is from Asin Breku. He's schooled, his basic school, Asin Breku. He went to Asampanaye, which is also in Asampanaye. The SHS is in Asampanaye. So he's been in the constituency all this while. He's just about 40 years. So if you compare him to somebody who stayed abroad for 45 years, and he wants to use the MP as a dessert, people are not going to go for that. So we are very, very confident. I can boldly declare to you that the MPP, we've waged an effective campaign, and we are going to win the seat. We are going to snatch the seat from the NDC.
All right.
And they know. But the fact is that they should not start this name-calling, bastardizing institutions, and trying to give a dog a bad name and then hang it because of what? Because you are going to lose the election tomorrow. Point made. For the lose, they will lose the election tomorrow.
All right. Nanabi, thank you so much. We have to go on the ground. We're grateful that you took the time to talk to us. Henry Nana Boakye is national organizer of the New Patriotic Party. Let's go now on the ground and get a feel of what exactly is happening right there. We have Richard Kwejunyako, my colleague, who is in Asin Breku. Richard, if you can hear me, what is Asin Breku looking like this morning in terms of anticipation of voting tomorrow?
Well, so Ben, thank you very much. So this is the election eve, the by-election eve, and we are here
at Asin Breku, and the place is unusually busy. You know, this is a farming constituency. What they do, grow rice, grow cocoa, grow palm, and all of that. But today, it appears that all of them didn't go to farm. For the past 2 weeks, it's been raining consistently in this constituency, and today the sun is up in the sky and the place is looking lively. Behind us are army of supporters from both political parties, the MPP and the NDC. Yesterday we had huge rallies from both camps. The President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the Vice, Chief of Staff, other Ministers of State, Members of Parliament, and other party bigwigs were here. They held a rally just at my right-hand side, and the President has been speaking. He says that he is not responsible for the predicament of George Achikwesin, neither is it a political stunt they are pulling to ensure that they take the seat away from him. But he should remember, and the entire NDC should remember, that same fate happened to Ademu Dramani Sakandi, and he went that way. And so from where he stands, it is the same way that George Achikwesin is also following. We've also been following the campaigns of the NDC, and yesterday, as at midnight, the former president, John Dramani Mahama, was on the ground, moving from one community to the other, spreading his message. And it's been very, very interesting. I'll bring my colleague in, Ohime Teria, who has been on the ground with me. Ohime, so we've been here for about 48 hours on this ground. What have you seen? What have the people been telling you?
Kojo, if you listen to the people of Assin North constituency, they have made up their mind. Those who want to vote for any political party or candidate has made up his mind and will be casting the ballot tomorrow. They say nothing will make them change their decision or their mind to vote for their preferred candidate. As you said, this is a farming community, and you should know that because elections are happening on Tuesday, you are likely to see people go to their farms, especially those in the hinterlands. There are communities that are not along the main Kumasi Cape Coast road. These communities, residents who want to go to farm and then come back to cast their ballots. But when I interacted with them, I don't see that they want to go to farm and then come back to cast their ballots. The indication is that they want to stay in their communities and cast their ballots so that their votes can be counted. They can be part of history. And so residents and electors in this constituency are determined to participate in tomorrow's by-election. And I know that at 11 a.m., the Electoral Commission will also be meeting the political party representatives to discuss the elections and what may be happening to them. So for me, I will say that yes, all is set for tomorrow, and the electors themselves, they are the key players in the elections. They are ready to cast their ballot tomorrow.
So you've been listening to the conversations that are happening in the constituency. Let's start from the camp of Charles Opoku. What have people been telling you based on which they would want to vote for him?
For Charles Opoku, they say he's been the man on the ground right from day one, even though he was nobody, he had no political intention, he had no political ambition to contest whatsoever. Immediately he had his masters in the United States of America. He came down here to support the residents. So from his meager resources, he's been able to provide borehole to residents in areas that water is a scarce commodity, scarce resource. And so they know him as somebody who is very, very, very good at giving. And so they want to appreciate whatever he has given them by also, voting for him tomorrow. There are others who also believe that, yes, for Achikwesin, he's been around with them, even though, as we said earlier, he has his own issues, but he has not allowed the issues to eat into his activities in the community. He's been reaching out to electors in the community in his own small way. So they believe that yes, come what may be, they will have the opportunity to cast their ballot tomorrow, and that their decision to vote for the candidates is based on the fact that they have received or perhaps enjoy something from these candidates, and they believe that continue voting for them will also mean that the goodies they've receiving from them will continue to come. So that is what is perhaps influencing the decision to vote for a candidate tomorrow.
Okay, so I'll come back and ask you about George Achukwesi and what people are saying about them, but let's engage our audience here. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me, do you vote in this constituency? Do you come from here?
I am not from here.
So you are here basically to do what?
Exactly. I'm an NDC executive from my constituency, and I just came to assist my people. You know, almost all party functionaries of the two political parties have been around, and I'm part of those who came in favor of the National Democratic Congress.
So essentially, what role are you playing? Do you see your candidate winning?
I assist my constituency executives around to be able to win the elections, and so what I can say is that we are just offering some kind of assistance, political assistance to them in the campaigning so that we can win this seat back to our party.
If you were to vote in this constituency, who I don't even need to ask, you'll be voting for George Achukwesi, right?
Actually, whatever people have been hearing outside the constituency is not correct. In terms of genuine love for the candidates, the Achukwesi tops all. Only that some of the party members of the National Democratic Congress are afraid the elections will be rigged. And so they are national.
What is informing this fear?
The fear is that we witnessed one at Ayawaso West, Ayawaso Ogon constituency.
It's a different constituency.
It is not a different constituency.
What have you seen?
We are dealing with the same electoral commission that actually brought 3 different results as a declaration of the 2020 elections. And so we cannot have so much confidence in the electoral commission.
So you are not, as we speak, you are not so confident that Achukwesi will carry the day?
Achukwesi has been chosen already. It's just that the voting ought to be done. But let me tell you, we have also put in certain mechanisms to check anything like rigging. And so in this case, I would say that whoever tells you that this election is going to be a 50-50 race is not telling you the truth. It's not true. What I'm saying is that the NDC will have to check. In fact, their tactics for the free and fair election must be proper and strong. If that happens, there's no way Charles Opoku can come near to Honorable Achukwesi. He can never come near.
I'll come to you again.
Let
me speak with one of the people that are here. So tell me, do you vote in this constituency?
Yes, please.
So who are you voting for?
I'm voting for Charles Opoku.
Right. So tell me, what has Charles done for you to vote for him?
A simple analysis that you are doing. You are going to compare Charles Opoku as against James Achukwesi. Right. For the first time you had our district, there's a certain man who gave the district accommodation, who is Charles Opoku. By then, wasn't a candidate. Secondly, you can see that
nursing an ambition to contest?
No, please, because the district was created in 2018, of which he was working at Takwa Mines. But because of his charity works, he had a foundation in the name of the mother, which is Akosua Baku Foundation, of which he was using those foundations to support the needy and brilliant students within the constituency. Right? Fast forward, going to 2020, Honorable James Achukwesi became the MP for the constituency. He had opportunity laying hands on common fund and other source of fund which enables him to work. Charles never took a dime from the assembly.
But many will say that George Achukwesi has been involved in legal issues for which reason he was not fully concentrating. But even with that, he was also even doing something for the constituency.
They should just pinpoint a single project within 2.5 years he started and completed.
Some will say that his woes started as soon as he was elected to become the member of parliament.
Someone who is battling in court was able to access his common fund closer to 300,000 Ghana cedis.
But many are pointing to the light that you currently enjoy here at Simbreku, that he was instrumental in doing that.
May I have been assembly member for 12 good years over here, presiding member for 8 good years. Every single project within the constituency I can pinpoint to you what we started and that's we have completed. I can boast of the government hospital here in Breku. It's at the roofing stage. They were pointing fingers on the disassembly building. That's never true. We started a new one just closer to the cemetery. It's been completed and finished.
Now the MPP, the NDC is pointing fingers at you that you are intimidating them, and they sense that you may rig the election.
Nobody is going to rig the election over here. We know ourselves. This is a close community, and I can easily identify every household and those living in that household. If you come to my electorate, that's why my electorate. I can take you there, move to each and every house. I will tell you who is an NDC person and who is an MPP person within my electorate area. So nobody from somewhere or from Dansame Press will come to Breku in voting. There's not like rigging election over here. We had our issues in 2020 and it brought crack to the party, it brought division. And as I speak, we are united.
Okay, so thank you very much. Let me shift to this gentleman here. I know you are definitely NDC. Are you one?
Yes, please.
Or you are just wearing the shirt?
No, I am a proud member of the National Democratic
Do you
Congress.
vote here?
I don't vote here.
So what are you doing here?
Okay, so before I answer that question, let me start with this. Once upon a time, there lived a great man named Martin Luther King Jr. And he said, and I quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere."
So what kind of injustice are you talking about here?
So if injustice is being perpetrated in Assin North, and I sit in Accra, in my comfort zone, watching injustice being perpetrated, then it means I am in support of the injustice that is being perpetrated by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Jane Mensah here in Assin North.
So you are here to tell me the kind of injustice that is currently going here?
Yes, the injustice going on here is because the wonderful people of Assin North elected a member of parliament. He was sent to parliament to perform his duties as he was elected to do. Here lies the case that a group of people led by President Akufo-Addo is frustrating this man and using the judiciary, and today there is a by-election in Assin North.
You don't have evidence of that fact because it's the Supreme Court, the apex court of our land.
Let's not forget that yesterday President Akufo-Addo said here categorically, asking the people of Assin North that would they be happy to vote for someone who will be sent to jail. How did he know he will be sent to jail? Is the case predetermined? Is he aware already what the outcome
I
of the
think that
case?
you are taking the president out of context, because I also did listen to the president where he said that based on what you are saying, so the president premised his statement on something, not that he's saying that they shouldn't vote for someone who will go to jail.
But clearly, that is per my understanding. That is what President Akufo-Addo was trying to tell the people. Me, I thought that was the question he was asking the people of Assin North. You understand? Which I feel clearly. You know, our MP from Jomoro, the same thing happened to her. She was also frustrated in a court like this with dual citizenship issue and all her view. But by the grace of God Almighty, today she is free.
So when it happened like that, did you blame the president for making him her win that case?
No, you see, we don't blame.
There are two set of cases.
Yes.
One, the candidate won. One, the candidate lost.
Yes.
Why are you blaming the president and the government for the candidate that lost?
You see, the reason why the focus here at Assin North is because they feel they have a chance in taking the seat. If it was Jomoro, they know definitely they cannot take. You and I know Assin North has been for them for some time until we took the seat. That is why they feel that no, let's give it a try again this time around, and it might succeed.
Okay, so let me go to this young woman here. Hello. So my very final person to speak here. So now etwabawa.
Pachodabi.
Na etwabawa.
Ejuma ko enya na esiam.
Ejuma ko.
Enya na esiam.
Na nti sesia na ha na ye de na kasa wa.
Bai beboai. Honorable Jachi Kwesi.
Etwabawa ha de ebekada Jachi Kwesi why ye be na zepa na oza ma. Based on that na pede etwaba ze ma Jachi Kwesi.
Oh, my hun wa han de by 4 years ya what all by Senya kota asam na nka papa no oyazepa na numpo no ode ne kotokum sika oda ye nyoma bebre ya yakofiefie a omoka light sam ne nyoma bebre nti etumi hu da sa papa no senya de bia court sam na anka obetuma ya adi bebre a chen ne oyeye no nti asen ha no Beye 7 years ni MPP for 1 year she ma hon.
Okay, so this young woman says that but for the court issues, Georgia Achikwesin would have done very well for them. I said this was my final person, but let me speak with this man. Do you vote here?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do I need to ask you who you are voting for?
Yes, please.
Who are you voting for?
I'm voting for Charles Opoku.
So tell me, why will you vote for Charles Opoku?
I'll vote for Charles Opoku based on 3 things. Charles Opoku has been able to train more than 1,500 indigenous in Assin North in apprenticeship and vocational training. I want to tell you something. When when he was coming, he promised us that he'll create jobs in Assin North. But that is not what we are seeing here. And then when my brother was speaking, he said that injustice. But it seems that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Now, justice is prevailing in this country. Please, are you listening to me? Honorable Joe Quesin came 2012, came 2016. He couldn't renounce his citizenship. He couldn't. So many, he don't even respect the people of Assin North. Please, are you getting me? So now, we voted for him, and then we are voting against him tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
Just
Thank you very
lips.
much. Thank you very much. So he said that they voted for George Achikwesin.
And that is Richard Kwejunako on the ground in Asin Breku. You heard the interactivity there. Do we still have Mustafa Gbande on the line? Mustafa, are you still with us? All right. I just wanted maybe a follow-up because I had spent so much time with Henry Nanabwachi. Dr. Kwapong, now you've seen the scenes there. You've heard the responses from both representatives of the party that we've interacted with this morning. What is your reflection on the aspect of influence peddling and having listened to those people on the ground from the MPP and the NDC? What do you foresee happening tomorrow?
I think it's going to be an extremely competitive election. I spent some time looking at the trends in their constituency going all the way back in 1996. And when you look at from 2012, when Asin North was carved out, so that now we have the Asin North, Asin Central, and Asin South, you can see how close these elections are. I mean, 2012, NDC won by 2,000 votes. 2016, MPP won by 4,800 votes thereabout. 2020, NDC won by 3,000 votes. So you can tell that it's going to be an extremely competitive election. You can also tell that the messages that are being communicated from both parties is actually also resonating with the voters, in the sense that you heard the person who said they would vote for the NDC candidate making references to injustice and the injustice that is being dealt to Mr. James Kwesing. And then for the MPP, the two people who said they would vote for Mr. Charles Opoku alluded to the things that he has done even before he had any ambitions of becoming an MP for the constituency. So I foresee an extremely competitive election. It will be very interesting to see which of these two competing narratives win at the end of the day when the election is done tomorrow.
Let me come into the studio before we cap off the conversation. Doc, for you, having seen the visuals that we put there, having listened to the interactivity, what is your take from what you saw on the ground?
So I think that I will agree with Dr. Osae with regards to the fact that it is going to be a close competition, looking at the statistics available. And what I am seeing is that with the support, of the youth behind the NDC, and the fact that when you pick information from the grounds, there appears to be some kind of a kind of protest, to the extent that people believe that Kwesing is being hunted, and that is not good for their constituency. But then one thing that I will want to see is that, you see, with allegations concerning injustices, I don't want to believe that. But then, It has to do with the strategies that the party would probably, or the two major political parties will put in place. With regards to the fact that election is about numbers and it is issues of numeracy. So whoever you put in charge of the party, regards to coalition and other stuff, should be somebody who understands figures and can do simple arithmetics and be able to know that this is my share, that was my percentage and stuff. If you don't do that and then you pick anybody at all to get in there, then of course, if you are suspecting injustices, it will be to your disadvantage. Right?
So you're alluding to what some members of the NDC said about suspected foul play.
Yes, it happens in politics, right? So I will not discount that fact. Yes. So if you are saying that, then of course you also must do your homework well, right? And not probably at a later time come back to say that we would have won the election, but for the sake of injustices or for the sake of probably rigging. Again, I also want to say that the security agencies should be at their very best, because in elections of this nature, anything at all can happen. All right, so once they have their eyes on the ground, once they have their ears on the ground, they shouldn't probably go to the extent of relaxing. But whatever information that they pick, they should be able to act on it, so that we also see fair and decent, by-election as it did happen at Kumewu.
All right. So to cap off the conversation, gentlemen, I'm going to throw two questions at you for you to address them within some about 3.5, 4 minutes each, and then we shall cap off the conversation. The first is this. What would be your prediction? Who wins? James Gyakye Quayson or Charles Opoku? In other words, who would fare better, likely, based on the figures we have seen over the years? Which party has won? The last election, who won? By what number of votes? And the second question, what would be the cost of a loss and the benefit of a win? In other words, if a party loses, what would be the consequences for the NDC and the MPP? And if a party wins, what would be the benefit out of this crucial election? I'll start with you, Dr. Ichampo. Dr. Osae-Kwapong, I beg your pardon.
All right. Who is going to win? I honestly don't know. I honestly can't predict.
Who do you think is armed better to win?
It's really difficult to say, right? Because I've been looking at the historical trends here, and it's always a very close election. I think the only poll that I've seen, I know Global Info Analytics has been doing a lot of work around polling lately, and I think it showed Mr. Charles Opoku up by about 1%, with almost 6-point-something% saying they were quote-unquote undecided, right? So if you go by that poll, that 1% lead, I can't even risk it and say he's likely to win, because if really you have 6% undecided, depending on how the undecided break, it's anybody's seat to win. So again, for me, truly and honestly, I really cannot predict exactly how this is going to turn out and who is going to win. In terms of the cost and the benefits of a win or a loss, I think from the NDC side, a win for them would be seen as a vindication that their message that, look, an injustice is being done to Mr. James Quayson, and therefore that injustice has to be corrected, triumphs at the end of the day, and that message really resonates with the people of Asin North, that they really saw it as something unfair being done to them, and they were not ready to stand for that unfairness, right? Another benefit for them is they still get to have an equal number of seats, or I think the NPP just edges them by one. Or, we still come back to the parliament that we had at the beginning of 2021, post the 2020 election. So they still maintain their parliamentary strength, so to speak. A loss for them, for me, I'm not sure the extent. A loss for them may be also a little demoralizing, but I just don't know how long that demoralizing effect will linger.
Especially when some members of the NDC have said that this would be a sort of verdict referendum on the rule of the MPP. So if the NDC loses, what kind of referendum would that be then on them?
Precisely, right? So that, for me, that part of the narrative, should they lose this seat, is how do you deal with that narrative that this is supposed to be a referendum on the ruling party, and if really it's a referendum on the ruling party and they've been able to pick up the seat, does it mean that the ruling party is not as vulnerable as the rhetoric suggests, or as they perceive it, or as they know it, etc., etc.? So for me, that would be maybe one of the downsides to a loss for the party. I mean, they can always respond to that by saying all politics is local, it's Assin North, it's an extremely competitive place, we put our best foot forward. Maybe, people bought into the story that something untoward may happen to Mr. James Kwesen, and therefore they decided, let's play it safe, let's move away from that candidate. So that's from the NDC side. From the MPP side, again, if they are able to edge out their NDC opponents, then at least they have that, I think, one or two seats buffer that they would now have in terms of parliamentary strength. If really this is a question of a referendum on the party's vulnerability and strength, I'm sure that if they win this seat, they will seize on it and use that in further campaigns to say, look, we are not as unpopular as some of you may think. We are not as vulnerable as some of you may think. If they lose, then the opposite becomes true, which is their opponents can seize on it and say, the referendum on your party has been really reflected in this competitive constituency in Assin. You are really vulnerable in Assin North. You are very vulnerable. The people have actually shown you that they are displeased with the way you're governing. The people have also shown that they stand against injustice, things like that. So I think it will be very interesting to watch both the outcomes and then how both parties end up spinning the outcome, whether they win or whether they lose.
Let me bring in Dr. Tutu Buahin. You have the final word on those two questions as well. Same to you.
Yeah. So for me, it's an issue of strategy. Since the data doesn't give a clear-cut, strength of one party over the other in Assin North. And as Dr. San rightly said, with regards to the data or the survey put up by Info Analytics, 1% lead isn't that strong, more especially when you have about 6-point-something percentage saying that they are undecided. And even prior to that, or after that survey came up, that was when the court proceedings also started. And so one may also want to think about sympathy votes. And if you pick information down from Assin North, of course, you are also tempted to believe that probably that 6% who are undecided, a percentage, may also swing. And if it happens that a greater percentage of the 6% swings, then of course it is going to be a deciding factor. And so that probably will be one of the things that can affect, the fortunes of the two parties going forward. Again, strategy in the sense that when you look at the strategy that has been deployed by the MPP on the ground, it is not different from what they did in Kumawu, all right? And seeking that they are now looking out for people who registered or were voting at Assin North probably might have traveled, and for financial issues are not likely to come back, and they are helping them to get back in there. Now, when that happens and they are able to implement that policy, that strategy very well, then of course, again, we are also likely to see some kind of an advantage, incumbency advantage over in there.
Right.
So what it means is that the NDC must up their game if they want to win this seat, apart from other structural strategies they will put in place. With regards to the second question,
the cost of a loss, the benefit of a win.
Obviously, it all boils down to you having a greater strength, and again being vulnerable to the other political party in power. Obviously, we were expecting that the hung parliament would have helped, either of the parties, and for that matter, Ghana. But it didn't turn out to be a clear-cut, kind of strength especially on the side of the NDC. And so I was even expecting that probably the NDC, could have won these two by-elections so that it would give them some kind of added advantage. But the first didn't happen. And so they can't afford, to be losing this one too. And so I expect that they go in with all their strength. And as Dr. Saad said, if you put your best foot forward and you don't win, then obviously you even give hope to the base and to the party supporters. And so it shouldn't be something that they should give up, so that it softens, their strengths. On the side of the MPP, obviously when they win, politics is a game of numbers, right? Mm-hmm. And so when they win, and it means that they now have a clear-cut majority as it is in Parliament. And that can also help them in terms of their bargainings and all voting and that kind of stuff. So that is how it is. I think that it is a deciding factor. So the NDC shouldn't go into this fight, with a loss.
All right. Well, that has been our conversation this morning. We do gather that the Inspector General of Police has arrived in Assin North, and he will be interacting with representatives from the two political parties, the MPP and the NDC. Trust us, your election headquarters, to bring you every bit of the scoop all the way from now, headed into tomorrow, D-Day, Election Day, by-election day, I should say, all the way down to when the results are declared. But those who joined us for this conversation this morning, Dr. John Osae-Kwapong, he is a CDD fellow. We also had joining the conversation Dr. Tutu Buahin. He is a political marketer, lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba. We had Mustafa Gbande, a Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. We had Henry Nana Boache, National Organizer of the MPP. We also had my colleagues Richard Kwejunyako and Ohimeng Teria joining the conversation on the ground. Thank you for watching. Do stay with us, because up next, it's a bit of a recap of what happened last Friday. The Joy News Impact Makers Awards. We're going to be interacting with the lead on that, MFA Atiamwa Eli, and also, should time permit, some of those who actually made that shortlist. That conversation up next on the AM Show.
Well, this event happened on Friday night, but I'm still reeling from the joy and excitement that I had listening to the stories of those making impact in different communities across the country. I'm pleased today to introduce you to one of them, and the project lead, who's done such a wonderful job putting this all together. It was, at a point, a lot of hard work for her, but she's not one to back down, so she pulled it through. And I've got the two of them here, but let me introduce you to Reverend Akaribo. We'll just show you some details of who he is, what he's done, and then we'll let you see the impact he's been making in those communities. Then I'll have a conversation with him. Watch this.
A former assembly member of the Yarka community and coordinator of the Yarkadone Women Association. But before 1998, the Yarkadone community is made up with about a little over 800 in population. And among this population, I beg to tell that there was no single literate woman or girl in the community. And the major problem was they were going to open their bank accounts and the bank have to reject them because all the executives were illiterate. And how can they function with the bank things? Hence we decided no. One of their legs is already in the grave. One is alive. When I talk in the grave means that they are already advanced in age and they can no more go back to school to study anything. But that of their daughters, which is still alive, what happens to them? And that's where we made a decisive decision that within the next 10 years, we would like to see female education enhanced, if not only in Yarka, but in the entire environment. I've been able to bring about clinic. There was no health facility in this community. I was able to build a clinic in this community. The Yarka community, which has now been upgraded to a health center, I brought it. I think today, when you move to any single house in Yarka, Zoko, Via, Sumbrugo, Agose, Bonyarka, anyway, you enter any house at all you enter, the educated person in that house is a female. And as I speak today, we have been able to turn around about 463 girls. Since I started doing my community work to bring change to Yarka community, the entire Yarka community, I think it's over 30 years now. 30 years is not 30 days. But yet, if it is today that people are not seeing what I've done yesterday, is beginning to, people are seeing the impact, the results of it. I think I'm so grateful, and I will pray that, well, whatever it has come, it should go through. But I'm in my small corner. But I never knew that Joy News have got an eagle eye to be looking through to come this community. There are so many communities in Yarka, in Bolgatanga municipality. But yet they have come to this remote area where it is not known that you have been able to fish some of us out. So we always work for the glory of God, and whatever God has decided to do, it to do. But I'm nothing to do. I'm only happy, I'm proud that I've been at least also acknowledged by people.
I said this during the event and I'll say it again. I had goose pimples watching Reverend dance with the girls, seeing the girls sitting in the classroom. It's just such a good feeling, especially to see a man who is so concerned about the rights of girls in his community and going all out to support them. I am so pleased this morning to introduce you to Reverend Akaribo, who is here with me in the studio, and with our project lead, Emefa Atiama Eli. She's been working so hard. See the smile on her face. I have some lashes to get from here, but that's not for you to know. But Emefa, Friday was exciting, Reverend. Friday was exciting. And I saw how your daughters and your family stood for you when you came to receive the award. Exactly. There's something you said when you picked up the award that we didn't see in that video. Yeah. The opposition you received when you decided to build that school. Tell us more about that.
Thank you very much, and also thank our charity listeners and then my colleague awardees. Indeed, this project started in 1998, and by then I was an assembly member of the community. Okay.
So I became assembly member for the community in 1994. We are the first constitutional decentralized assembly members. So when we were in assembly, then this issue of my women group that we established in 1993, by then we were trying to support the women in their income-making generations and then to support them in their livelihoods.
And this was established by you as well?
I established these plans.
Wow.
I realized that individually they cannot stand. There was a need for them to organize themselves into a group. And lucky at that time, we had what we called IFAT. IFAT was a donor organization that came to support agriculture in the North. So when we started this, they said, they want all the women groups to where they can form groups and then they open bank accounts for them to give them support. And really, when I organized them into that group, they were the next step was to open their bank accounts. We went to ADB bank accounts that day. In fact, I wept. Because when they ended, they were in the queue. And when they got their turn, then they said, they want their constitution. I presented the constitution. They want their resolution. We presented everything, all the documents needed to open an account. But when they got to a point, they want the secretary to sign this thing. Nobody could do it. When they got to the chair lady, nobody. The treasurer, nobody. The people were so desperate, they said, take your things. How can we cannot do, we don't thumbprint here in those things. If at least one of them could even sign, it would have been better. And here's a case. I wanted them to be an all-women affair. I don't want to involve any man. But well, I was compelled to. So later we have to postpone our account that day. We went back and then I organized a chair lady who is Madame Adumbila. She's still alive and very active. The husband was a Form 4 labor.
Okay.
So we decided to adopt the husband to be the secretary of the group. And then we started it. So when we came back from 1993, 94, this level elections came, then I won. In 1998, again, there was an NGO headed by Dr. Odoy on this reproductive health that we're doing. And here again, they wanted some women so they can train them in that reproductive health and then give them some kits, something like a first aid box. Then they'll ask something like condoms and then some drugs. Then they give them a basket to be able to aid them to going around and educating their fellow women on health issues. Here again, my women group were elected to get one woman. Among the over 100 women, no single woman could even read or write. So we have to go into, but we're lucky that in the community, there was one Degati woman who's married into the community. May her soul rest in peace. She's of blessed memory now. One Fati Adamu. So the women have to go and adopt her. Again. Then she went on their behalf. And when she came home with a brand new basket, at that time, basket was something very, we value it so much at that time. With a paracetamol, case and other things going on, the woman said, no.
They want some.
Something must be done. Something must be done. So it was there and then that at one day at a meeting, I said, okay, what can we do now? In a community of a population of about more than 1,000 or 2,000, and the whole community, if Nyarka we bought both one of the Nyarka that is under the administrative district of Bongo, and then another Nyarka under the district administrative of Bolga. If all these communities put together, population of more than 3,000, and no single, in fact, it hurts, no single female can read and write. So we said, no, something must be done. That was where we started organizing that we need to have a girls' school. And they were asking how we could get the money. But the women, they came out here and said, look, whether money or no money, the school must be opened. Whether building or no building, there are so many trees which you can use as classrooms.
So it was there I said, oh, well, once they have taken this decision, I know they are committed and they want to support. Once they are committed, then we have to do something. But by then, when you organize women meeting in those periods, it's not easy to call women to a meeting. I remember one day, one of the men in the community came out, called the wife. When he came, we were having a meeting. He came with a cordial. Are you the one who married my wife for me? Eh? When I was daring, did you take part in daring my wife? They always want to call women and then sit down together and then you are polluting their minds.
Wow.
She has to drag the woman out from the meeting. But I was not scared. I have to be able to target the men too as well. And many of them were saying that, look, John Akaru, who has not been here, he has just come and he's organizing you. What good will you get from John? You know, by then, because I started my life, I was in Tekrade for about 10 years. That's why when I left school in 1974, middle school, I could not make it up to in a secondary school. And really, I became frustrated. I have to pick my cutlass and go to down south to seek for labor. It was there that I decided to enroll in this adult education class small before I was employed by State Construction Corporation in 1975. So when I stayed in Tekrade for those years, and I finally had my transfer from State Construction Corporation back to Volta in 1984, and I got married that same year when I got home. I married that same year. I realized that no, there's something wrong. Even the school which I attended in Yarga was no more there. It has collapsed.
You, at the time, you were young.
I was young.
So it meant that you didn't have any female classmates. You were, it was a class full of boys. I'll come back to you, Rev, to tell us about what inspired that attention for women. Because in your entire story, even from helping the women in the agric sector, you seem to have a certain desire to support women. And I'll come back to you to tell us why that is. But MFA, this has been a really successful project, and we heard it from the judges and even those who were awarded, who came to pick up the awards, how this has impacted them. Tell us about the story, right from the conception of the idea to incubation to execution.
Thank you so much, Bernice, and you're one of the people who made it happen. And I want to use this platform to say a big thank you. Yes, so where did the idea come from? I mean, it's a multimedia idea, right from the top, and it's the first in Ghana's media landscape, and so the expectations were very high from the stage of opening nominations and asking the public to file in their entries, and then the numbers kept swelling. The challenge,
I am told.
I know, right? The challenge was, how would you be able to pick out the best, with all this? And then we had to set the deadline so we can get to work as soon as possible. I must tell you, it was very involving. Listening to Reverend Akaribo, how would you be able to tell, listening to his story, you can really feel the motivation behind what they do. And if you have that number of entries, how are you able to tell whose story is better than the other to be able to select? So that we had to come up with a criteria,
right.
So that, and as much as possible, also to make our work easy, we encourage the nominees, whoever was nominating somebody, to putting a little profile about the person they were nominating. So that will give us a bit of idea regarding whom we are working with. So that also helped to a certain extent. And so with that little information, and then after that, we had to engage the nominees themselves over phone. I mean, you were involved in that process, quite involved. Some of them you call, you go back, the story kept changing, you don't really know what, So, and it took over a month for us to be able to finish that first stage, and then hand over. We were able to get about 30 out of the close to 500 nominations that we got. And then we had to hand over that to the judges to do the final work. And they also spent close to 2 months to be able to, because then it was very intensive, going by the criteria we had. Among the criteria, some of the things they were looking at was sustainability, source of funding, the ingenuity of the project, the extent of impacts on the community, and how would I say, the replicability of the project.
Good.
So just as Reverend is talking about, you and I were discussing behind the scenes, that even here in Accra, how many girls' schools do we have at the basic level? We do not really have anything like that. But then, from his story, realize that it was really needed.
Right.
You can imagine, and this is something that can be done anywhere, any part of the country, and particularly in the remote areas where most people don't really value the education of the girl child. So his story alone is a lot of encouragement and enlightenment to those in such parts of the country, to let them know that, see, they went to open a bank account, but for women, he wanted that initiative to be driven by women, but there was no lady among them to be able, just a signature, to be able to sign. Another opportunity was for them to lead a sensitization program on reproductive health. There was no woman who was well educated or well informed to be able to do that. You can understand how critical it was for opportunities to be given girls so that they will be able to get that capacity, that strength, so they will also be able to be involved in some of these things. So that was how it all started. And yes, we are happy that with a set of criteria given we had 5 judges who sat through for, like I said, close to 2 months, and they came out with 10 finalists for us. And then we were also careful because, yes, events like this, you might have, no matter how much you're prepared, there could be last-minute issues. So we also had people on waiting list, just in case we have people withdrawing at the last. And yes, it happened. Okay. We had one person withdrawing a few days to the awards. We did our best to be able to encourage the person to come, but we weren't successful. It means that we quickly need to fill that space because there are lots more who needed to be acknowledged and celebrated, and you didn't want to deny them that opportunity. And there was one lady among them, Yaira Klu. We quickly had to replace her with the one who would, and it was a lot of work. You saw the video work and all of that. Went to go and get her recorded, get those post-production to work on her content, was all time consuming. But I mean, it's a teamwork.
Yeah.
And I would also want to use this platform to appreciate the team. They did so well with all the pressure from the managers, every area, even the nominees themselves. Every day, some of them were so anxious.
Yes,
is this coming on?
Yes.
When is it coming?
Yes.
How am I getting there? They have concerns about accommodation, and those are legitimate issues. All of these needed to be catered for, and it was all about the team that came together to make it happen. And I say I'm so proud of them, and you can imagine how it will be in 2024.
Exactly, and that's why we want you to continue making a difference wherever you are, because trust me, it's going to be about 10 times what it was this year. And I must tell you, the people who receive the awards are doing a lot of great work. And for some of you who wonder, why is it necessary? Let me share with you what the overall winner told us after he picked up the overall award. He said, for the past few days, he's been really down. And here's what he does. He is into agriculture, but they use the profit from that to sponsor children in school. And due to the current economic situation and the cost of fertilizers and general agri inputs, it's been difficult for them to meet that need. And so he's been having sleepless nights. He's been wondering whether to give up, whether to throw in the towel, what exactly to do. This award gave him hope. And that's why we are here at Joy News, to support what you do, to put the spotlight on what you do, and to offer that hope. So, Reverend, in wrapping up, I was finding out from you, why women? Even before you got to the education bit, you were interested in supporting women in agriculture. What exactly prompted that?
To cut the story long and short, it was my mother that brought me up.
Wow.
I started my education naked, not even a small P2.
Wow.
It was my mother who supported me.
And looking at the entire community, as I told you, all our women in North, down South, have been driven to down South, migration. When they come, what is their job? It's only carry that they do. It's only manual jobs, washing of books and other things. And we ask ourselves, why are they denied? So I think that when you see an educated woman, no matter whatever level that she reach, she's better off than the one who has never been to school at all.
All right.
So I thought that, like Kwaji Agri said, if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. So I thought that when we are able to empower the girls, obviously, one day the community will change. Women, they are good managers. And when you have a lady or a wife who is a little bit educated, in fact, the sort of support, the sort of love that they have for one another, the sort of relationship that they have is quite different from others. So I thought that there's a need for us to educate our women. And when you look at my own wife, she hadn't been to school. Yet she wished she were given opportunity. That is why we are giving all hands on deck. So I think educating the women will bring a long way to bring development. Women can bring development to this nation. If women are given opportunity, I think they can do more. Even in their own houses, they are good managers. They are good managers. You give a woman just 20 cedis, you come back and the meal you are taking. You ask yourself, where did she get that 20 cedis from? So now, if you are able to help them to build their capacities, you can imagine the great things that they will do.
Rev, you have no idea the joy I get from just listening to you, because MFA knows I come from a family of all girls.
Yeah. Okay.
We are 5 girls. So I'm imagining if we didn't have the opportunity, where would we be by now? Or who would be supporting my dad in his old age or my family in his old age? Rev, we are so grateful. So look, here's what you can do for us. Get onto social media, right? All the impact makers out there, you can support them. MFA, your final words. We quickly need to move on to NSMQ.
Yeah, so as one of our awardees said in the clip that was played earlier, and even the judge, Gifty, also mentioned it. I mean, there's so much we need to do as individuals to help our communities advance. Let's not always wait for government. I mean, it took one person and is making a lot of tremendous impact in his community, in the lives of girls. So in your community, no matter how small, it could be sanitation, it could be health, it could be, what else, agri, it could be technology. Whatever the need is, just start, like Gifty said, start now. And yes, you might not always be celebrated, but what matters is that you are changing lives. You are giving people the opportunity to live dignified lives. You understand? We are living in a very hard economy as things are now. And it's so easy for everyone to give up. But who knows, you'll be that person who will give the people around you that hope.
Right.
So it's time you start doing something. And we say start now.
Thank you so much. MFA Tiama Eli is project lead, Reverend Akaribo. Final words.
Yeah, my final word is just to acknowledge those who have impacted my life to also impact others. And this I will not forget our Lord Jesus Christ first. And then the Christian Life Center, David Freeman, who have been talking about impact our generation. And then I will not also forget Madam Fawe Ghana chapter. From the beginning of the project, it was very tough. It was Fawe that supported us. And then the GS who have accepted to take over the school. And one of the inspiring ladies in this country, our mother, the first former president, first lady, Nana Konadu Ajima-Rawlings. In 2000, she made a visit to the community. And that was something that has stirred up almost all the women. They say, if the first lady, Nana Konadu Ajima-Rawlings, have visited this place, then this project is something that worthwhile. And those who are not even allowing their girls to come to school started enrolling their girls. And those girls, the funny thing, I started school with some girls who were at the age of between 7 and 12. So these are some of the things. So, and then my women group, which I want to thank them. And Blessing Basket Project from USA, they came and then they built our junior high school. Madam Tezia Wilson from USA and one Ship Lives Foundation. So to all those who are supporting me, I think I cannot anoint all of them. Yes. But I think I'll do it. Because the vision that I have right now, the plans that I have, I think.
So we will stay in touch with Reverend Akaribo and let you know what those plans are and how you can support. But before we go here on the AM show, we've got the National Science and Maths quiz for you. Watch this. That's screaming into my ear. Thank you so much for staying here on the AM show. And I came back with Benjamin Akako. Apologies, we couldn't bring you that NSMQ bit. We just had a little technical challenge, but we'll bring it to you much later. But here's what I need you to know. Today, you need water to survive. Water is life, right? Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. There's the perfect size for all purposes, 330 ml and 500 ml to fit your pockets and bags, 750 for the heavy drinkers like Benjamin, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. Our 19-liter jar bottles are ideal for homes and offices. All you must do now is drink Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. Just choose a bottle of Awake Purified Drinking Water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Now remember, for every bottle you buy, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's another quality product by Casapreco Company Limited. Do call 026-235-1251 for bulk purchase. This advert is approved by the FDA. Benjamin.
Well, very quickly, we have a few birthdays. Fentuo Tahiru Fentuo.
Yay!
Today is his birthday. We celebrate you, bro. He's with our sports team. Cynthia Tekpe. This is from Muftau Nabil Abdullahi. He says, thank you for the love in Abuja. There is also Nanama Tando. Thank you for coming to my aid with Ghana Food in Doha. That's a message to you. And then to Sebastina Nadromo Ato of Harvest International School. You are 11 today. Happy birthday to you. And finally, to Aseda Asafubuache. May today begin your journey of greatness and many good things. It's from Aisha Ibrahim of Joy News. To you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining today's show. We are back again tomorrow with another exciting edition. Take care.